Chapter 669. Not only Keystone Business and Green Deer School, but also Ning family in the Forbidden City, a stronghold of King of the ECE family, a stronghold of Tumbler Gong family, and various forces of all sizes were shocked on this day. On this day, Heart Cleansing Peak was particularly lively. In the 6 months before Lin Sun's return, except for a few forces such as Keystone Business, Green Deer School, Yi family, Ning family, and Gong family, almost no force was willing to set foot on the gate of Heart Cleansing Peak again. After all, Lin Sun was dead. There was no one worthy of attention on Heart Cleansing Peak. It was inevitable that some people would be disappointed when they left. In particular, as the collateral forces of Lin family, supported by Zhuo family and Qin family, began to suppress Heart Cleansing Peak. Heart Cleansing Peak seemed to be isolated and besieged on all sides. It was in a precarious situation. In such a case, other major forces couldn't wait to watch the fun. How could they have any connection with Heart Cleansing Peak? Even Keystone Business, Green Deer School, Ning family, and Yi family only helped Heart Cleansing Peak in secret. The reason was simple. They only valued Lin Sun. Now that Lin Sun was dead, who would care whether it was a blessing or a curse for Heart Cleansing Peak? It was not that they were snobbish. In the final analysis, Heart Cleansing Peak was different from other forces. It was strengthened by Lin Sun alone and also implicated by Lin Sun alone. It could be said that Lin Sun was like the soul of Heart Cleansing Peak. His well-being was directly related to the life and death of Heart Cleansing Peak. The reality was so cruel. If they naively thought that they could rely on other forces for help, they would be too naive. But today, Heart Cleansing Peak was very lively, sweeping away the decadence and desolation of the past 6 months. Since the morning, some forces had sent representatives to visit. Some were former business partners of Lin family in Heart Cleansing Peak, and some came purely to confirm the news of Lin Sun. There were even some forces who secretly coveted Heart Cleansing Peak Lin family in the past 6 months and wanted to encroach on Lin family's industry. Now, they all came to apologize with all kinds of expensive gifts in panic and uneasiness. They were afraid that Lin Sun would raise the butcher's knife to them again. But at this moment, how could the Lin family still care about them? Lin Zhong directly gave the order. Recently, the Lin family had internal affairs to deal with, so they refused to see any guests. They coldly rejected the representatives of the major forces at the door. The more Heart Cleansing Peak behaved like this, the more determined other forces were. It must be Lin Sun. Otherwise, how could Lin family be so tough? Some forces who had offended Heart Cleansing Peak in the past 6 months became more and more frightened. Those forces who had no grievances with Heart Cleansing Peak were glad that they didn't do anything extreme in the past 6 months. Otherwise, they would be in trouble today. I wonder how the Zhuo and Qin families will react. This was something that many major forces were paying close attention to. After all, they all knew that there was an irreconcilable hatred between the two superior families and Heart Cleansing Peak for a long time. More than a decade ago, the Zhuo family and the Qin family had secretly divided up many of the Lin family's businesses. Even now, the attitude of Zhuo family and Qin family has been very clear. They supported the collateral forces of Lin family to compete for the power of Heart Cleansing Peak. This was undoubtedly driving wolves to devour tigers. They wanted to devour Heart Cleansing Peak completely. But obviously, everything changed after Lin Sun returned last night. Lin Sun's bloody killing made the collateral forces of Lin family completely submit to him and be incorporated into Heart Cleansing Peak. In this case, what would Zhuo family and Qin family do? This was the focus of attention of all forces. In Heart Cleansing Hall of Heart Cleansing Peak, Lin Sun sat high in the main seat with a calm look. He didn't sleep all night. He had been dealing with the affairs of the 3 collateral forces of Lin family. Young Master, the 3 forces of Westbrook, Floating Cloud, and Flying Peak have been initially taken over by our forces, but it will take some time to integrate and digest them completely. In addition, some industries controlled by these 3 forces are still under statistics. We are short of manpower, so we can only take over step by step. Up until now, we haven't encountered any obstructions in our operation. It can also be seen that after experiencing what happened last night, these three clans have completely lost the will to resist. As for whether there are any traitors who have not given up, we still have to investigate further. Lin Zhong stood aside, summarized the news he received one by one, and then told it to Lin Sun. He couldn't hide the joy between his eyebrows, and looked at Lin Sun sitting in the main seat unconsciously with a touch of awe. In the past, Lin Sun had always been regarded as a junior by him to take care of and support him. But now it was completely different. Lin Sun's strength and power were vividly demonstrated in the last night's killing. Even Lin Zhong couldn't help being shocked more than ever when he learned that Lin Cixi was also defeated by Lin Sun. After the shock, there was a change of mentality. He knew that the young master was already a great practitioner who could really shoulder everything. His wisdom and means were more amazing and outstanding than his master in those days. From now on, the young master was the real master of Lin family. He could be on an equal footing with any big shot in the Forbidden City. I'll trouble Granddad Zhong to deal with these things for the time being. I only have one request. Don't let any of the clansmen who betrayed the clan go. No matter who the traitor is or who pleads for mercy, there is no room for negotiation in this matter. Lin Sun's dark eyes were deep. Sitting there casually, he already had an invisible majesty. Lin Zhong was shocked in his heart. He nodded and immediately said, "Young master, how are you going to deal with Lin Tianlong, Lin Yinshan, and Lin Pingdu?" These three people were the leaders of the three collateral forces and the biggest traitors. More than 10 years ago, they had colluded with Zhua and Qin to carve up the property of Lin family, keep them alive, and imprison them in the ancestral land of Lin family as guardians. They will be grounded for a lifetime to atone for their betrayal. Lin Sun said calmly, "I want all the clansmen of Lin family to always remember that these three people suffered because of their betrayal. They are the sinners of Lin family. They must repent for the shame and harm they brought to Lin family. They can't die even if they want to." Lin Zhong's heart trembled. He realized that this punishment was more severe than killing them. Of course, the innocent clansmen of these three families should be treated equally and given the same treatment as Northlight Lin. If there are outstanding ones, they can be rewarded. Lin Sun pondered and said, "I don't want to see a Lin family in constant internal strife. No matter what means we use, we must unite them instead of strife with each other as before." Lin Zhong nodded solemnly. "Mr. Vulture has made many plans and arrangements before his closed-door training. I believe that it is enough to completely solve the internal trouble of Lin family. We will share the glory and the loss together. There will be no sign of disintegration in the future." Lin Sun's lips curled up with a touch of relief. He still admired and amazed Vulture's wisdom and strategy until now. Now that Vulture had made arrangements, Lin Sun was completely relieved. "By the way, don't forget the villagers of Feiyun Village," Lin Sun suddenly said. "If Lin family wants to rise in the future, we must absorb more talents and strength. The villagers of Feiyun Village are our most reliable candidates. We must treat them well." Lin Zhong said with a smile, "Don't worry, young master. It's inevitable." At this time, Lin Huaiyuan suddenly came in a hurry and brought back some latest news. Today, Lin Huaitong seemed to recover from the pain of losing his brother. There was a touch of joy between his eyebrows that couldn't be concealed. It was no wonder that he was happy. The situation on Heart Cleansing Peak had changed dramatically just one day after Lin Sun's return. The major forces in the city came to visit one after another. Some forces who had embarrassed Heart Cleansing Peak during this period were scared to apologize in a hurry. Up to now, there were still representatives sent by major forces to visit Heart Cleansing Peak outside the gate of Heart Cleansing Peak. Compared with the deserted and bleak situation in the past, today's Heart Cleansing Peak was like sweeping away the bad luck and glowing with a new atmosphere. How could Lin Huaitong not be happy? The more prosperous and powerful Heart Cleansing Peak was, the higher his status would be. In the future, he could enjoy all kinds of respect and treatment in the Forbidden City that he couldn't get. This was much better than being forced to give up the power of Heart Cleansing Peak. But when he looked at Lin Sun on the main seat, Lin Huayuan's heart suddenly trembled. There was an unspeakable awe in his heart. Lin Huayuan also knew clearly about the bloody killings that happened in the 3 collateral branches of Lin family last night. When he learned that almost all the senior members of the 3 branches were slaughtered, and even Lin Sisi was suppressed by Lin Sun, Lin Huayuan was so shocked that he almost fell to the ground. In contrast, Northlight Lin was less affected by the news. What made Lin Huaitong most fortunate was that he was decisive at the beginning. He knelt in front of Lin Sun to ask for forgiveness and showed his determination with actions, which saved some unnecessary sacrifices. However, after experiencing these things, Lin Huayuan no longer dared to treat Lin Sun as before. Even when facing Lin Sun, he had a sense of awe like a courtier when meeting the emperor. He dared not disobey Lin Sun at all. This was the power he had gained from killing. Perhaps Lin Sun was still a junior according to the seniority of the clan, but now he was in charge of heart-cleansing Peak and sat in the position of the head of Lin family. So, he was the master of Lin family. No matter how high your seniority was, you had to submit to me. After reporting all the news respectfully, Lin Sun just nodded gently without saying a word, which made Lin Huayuan feel more and more emotional. His nephew's power was getting stronger and stronger. By the way, there's one more thing I need your instruction. Suddenly, Lin Huayuan thought of one thing and said, some of the industries controlled by the 3 collateral branches of Lin family have already been occupied by Zhuo family and Qin family. What do you think? Lin Sun narrowed his eyes. What's the reaction of Zhuo family and Qin family since last night? Lin Huayuan and Lin Zhong shook their heads at the same time. They didn't know whether these 2 upper-class aristocratic families were confident or simply unafraid of anything. It was very strange that they hadn't made any response until now. Seeing this, Lin Sun smiled faintly. His black eyes became colder and calmer. It seems that they're going to wait and see. Unfortunately, I won't give in this time. Granddad Zhong, go and inform Zhu Laosan to take back those industries occupied by the 2 families. If they dare to stop us, kill them directly, without scruples. An order was issued casually, but it was full of compelling killing intent. Lin Huayuan and Lin Zhong were shocked. Lin Sun was going to directly break off with the 2 top aristocratic families. Chapter 670. Forbidden City, Rui Trading Firm. Zhuo Baolin leisurely sat in an armchair made of a whole piece of cloud sandalwood. He was smoking a pipe carved from black crow jade in his mouth. Behind him, there was a beautiful and well-behaved young girl who was massaging his shoulders. On the other side, a zither player was playing a tune. The tune was melodious, simple, and elegant, and the room was filled with a poetic and picturesque tranquility. Zhuo Baolin was the boss of Rui Trading Firm. He was also a member of the Zhuo family, one of the 7 top aristocratic families. He didn't have much talent for cultivation and even seemed mediocre. He had no status in the clan, but he was a member of the Zhuo family after all. With this identity alone, he became the boss of Rui Trading Firm. Even his peers had to respect him. He could make a lot of money just by doing business every day. Therefore, his life was enjoyable and even extravagant. Bang! The door was suddenly slammed open, and an old man who looked like a butler stumbled in, looking as if his buttocks were on fire. Suddenly, the tranquil and melodious atmosphere in the room was destroyed. Even Zhuo Baolin was shocked. His hand trembled, and the sparks in the pipe floated on his lips. He screamed in pain and said angrily, "Bastard, why are you so flustered?" "Master, something bad has happened." The steward shouted anxiously. "Humph, what's so bad? Will the sky collapse?" Zhuo Baolin took a deep breath and waved his hand to drive away the young girl who was massaging his shoulders and the old man who was playing the zither. Then he frowned and said, "Old Ma, I don't want to criticize you. If your daughter wasn't my concubine, I would have kicked you out long ago because of your hot temper." The old steward suddenly broke out in a cold sweat and said with a sad face, "Master, something bad has happened. I'm just thinking for you." "Oh, tell me the details." Zhuo Baolin seemed very calm. He had always envied the big shot's calmness and calmness. As the saying goes, face as calm as a lake even when there's thunder in the chest. This was the demeanor and bearing of a great figure. If they were to be flustered every time they encountered something, then it would be too conspicuous and embarrassing. It's the people from the Lin family again. They want to take away our Rui trading firm. Steward Old Ma could not remain calm and said with a sullen face, "Humph, the Lin family is really reckless. Do they really think that after Lin Sun comes back, they can run amok and show off their power?" Zhou Baolin snorted disdainfully. He became calmer and calmer. In the Forbidden City, the Lin family is not even as powerful as a low-class aristocratic family. For our Zhou family, they're just a nobody. Do they want to take back the Rui Trading Company? Dream on. Master, why don't you go out and take a look? This time, it's obvious that they're serious. Old Ma's entire body was still trembling, and he looked extremely frightened. Old Ma, can you ** calm down? Even if Lin Sun came in person, so what? No matter how powerful he is, how dare he be openly hostile to our Zhou family? Zhou Baolin despised Old Ma more and more. He couldn't wait to drive this useless old thing out of the Zhou family. Old Ma could not keep calm at all. It was a disgrace to him. But Old Ma still wanted to explain, but he was interrupted impatiently by Zhou Baolin. Old Ma, you are a fool and short-sighted. You don't understand what a superior aristocratic family is at all. In the Forbidden City, even the imperial family dare not offend us easily, let alone Lin Sun. In the end, he scolded with disappointment. Remember, your master is a member of the Zhou family. In the Forbidden City, few people dare to offend me. Boom! But at this moment, there was a sudden, deafening explosion outside. Although it was far away, it still shook the teacups in the house and the tables and chairs in the house. Zhou Baolin's face suddenly darkened. He suddenly stood up. Do they really dare to take action? They must be tired of living. Slap! In the end, he slapped Old Ma in the face and scolded, "You old bastard, you are really useless. Why didn't you tell me earlier that such a big thing had happened?" Old Ma covered his cheek aggrievedly and almost cried. He said that something bad was going to happen as soon as he came in. It was okay that Zhou Baolin didn't believe it, but why did he blame it on him? "I'll get even with you later." Zhou Baolin couldn't calm down at this moment. He couldn't learn the calmness of those big shots who had a thunderstorm in their chest, but remained calm. Just like Old Ma, he rushed out as if his buttocks were on fire, shouting, "Damn it, I want to see which blind fool dares to come to my territory and behave atrociously. Guards, *CK you all. Today, air." However, he was like a duck that had been strangled, and his voice stopped abruptly. In his field of vision, the huge hall of Rui Trading was in a mess at the moment. Tables, chairs, counters, furnishings, even walls and stone pillars had suffered unimaginable damage. On the ground, there were pools of blood and corpses lying in disorder. It was a ghastly sight. Those were the guards of Rui Trading, but now they were all dead. Someone actually dared to attack the Zhou family's business. Is the Lin family really tired of living? Zhou Baolin's face suddenly turned livid. He was so angry that smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices. What calmness and composure! He had long thrown it to the back of his mind. He saw the murderer at once. The murderer was extremely conspicuous. His figure was like a majestic mountain, indomitable. His expression was cold and indifferent. Just by standing there casually, there was a suffocating, oppressive aura. In his hand, there was a blood-red saber that was still dripping with blood. Drops of blood fell to the ground, splashing and shattering. The scarlet color was dazzling. You, how dare you? Do you know the consequences of doing this? Do you know how serious the price of offending the Zhou family will be? Zhou Baolin screamed angrily, but there was an indescribable fear in his heart. Such a ruthless character had actually killed his way into Rui Trading and killed until the floor was covered with blood. It was too frightening. What answered him was a flash of saber light, direct and efficient, like slaughtering a chicken or a monkey. Pooh! Zhou Baolin's body and head fell to the ground. Even in death, he was unable to understand why there would be such a fearless fellow who would make a move on a whim and not utter a single word from the beginning until the end? Was it because he cherished his words like gold or disdain? Zwabalin didn't know that he was dead. And old Ma, who came out with him, was even more straightforward. He was so scared that he directly fainted and fell to the ground. Good saber. Until he left, Zhu Laosin wiped the blood stains on the saber, and a trace of joy flashed in his eyes. This saber was given to him by Lin's son. It was called Prairie Fire. It was said that it was an ancient treasure inherited by the Devil Elephant clan in the depths of the Soul Oblivion Sea. It was absolutely a murderous weapon. The same thing happened in different areas of the Forbidden City one after another. Xingyuan Precious Store, Ruijin Elixir Store, Yu Garden Restaurant. These properties of the Lin family, which have been occupied by the Zhuo family and the Qin family, welcomed the arrival of blood today. How could the major forces who had been paying attention to the movements of the Zhuo family and Qin family expect that Lin family of Heart-Cleansing Peak would take the lead? All of a sudden, they were shocked and in an uproar, setting off a great sensation. Last night, Lin Sun killed 3 collateral forces of Lin family. It was understandable that a shocking, bloody thing had happened. After all, it was an internal affair of Lin family. But who could imagine that just after one night, Lin family of Heart-Cleansing Peak made another strong attack and directly attacked the industries occupied by Zhuo family and Qin family. Moreover, he was unbelievably domineering. He would start a massacre at the slightest disagreement. He didn't even try to negotiate or beat around the bush. What's wrong with Lin family? Are they crazy? Those are 2 upper-class forces. How dare they make a move like this? Many people were shocked and couldn't believe their ears. In particular, some major forces were in an uproar. They didn't think that Lin's son would be crazy. Since he dared to do this, would he have something to rely on? This guy has disappeared for half a year, but his ferocity is still the same as before. He even seems to be more ferocious than before. Did he directly offend the top forces? Such a thing rarely happened in the past years of the Empire. Many practitioners sighed with emotion and were shocked by Lin Sun's strength. At that time, Lin Sun dared to force Ling Tianho to kneel down and slap Princess Ling Huang in public. Now he was even more ferocious. As soon as he returned to the Forbidden City, he challenged the top forces, which seemed too ferocious. I'm afraid that this boy will suffer a big setback this time. Not to mention that he is a spiritual tattoo guru and his fighting capacity is great. He is just a man after all. How can he have the confidence to challenge a superior aristocratic family? Even the life-death realm dares not to challenge a top force. It seems that he is still too young after all. He thinks that he can run amok in the Forbidden City with some achievements, but he doesn't know that the reason why the top aristocratic families can stand for thousands of years in the Empire is not just because of the power on the surface. For such a behemoth, it is not difficult to kill Lin Sun. Some major forces looked on indifferently and didn't think Lin Sun's move was optimistic. They thought that Lin Sun was dizzy with victory and really thought that he could challenge the top forces after solving the internal problems of his clan. This was too laughable. What was a top force? Even if it was in the entire empire, they could be said to be colossi. Their forces covered the world, and no matter if it was in the imperial court or in the wilderness, their forces existed everywhere. It was no exaggeration to say that in today's empire, in addition to the imperial family, Green Deer School, and the headquarters of the commune of spiritual tattooists, the 7 top forces were the most powerful. Under such circumstances, Lin Sun challenged the Zhuo clan and the Qin clan. For outsiders, it seemed that he was overestimating himself. It was also because of the uproar caused by this matter that most people denied and ridiculed Lin Sun's move. Lin Sun was indeed a rare young talent. He had many dazzling titles and attracted the attention of all. But if he dared to challenge the top forces just because of these, he would be a laughing stock. Chapter 671. Heart-Cleansing Peak. While the outside world was changing, Lin Sun was receiving an important guest. It was Zhao Tailai, the behind-the-scenes boss of Tianwu Arena. It's been half a year since we met again. You are more elegant than before, which makes me feel that I should look at you with new eyes. Zhao Tailai sighed with emotion. You flatter me, senior. Lin Sun smiled modestly. He knew that the man sitting opposite to him was a slippery old fox. He must have something to do this time. Lin Sun happened to have something to ask him. Flatter me? Don't be modest. Others don't know your feat in the depths of Soul Oblivion Sea, but I know a little about it. Zhao Tailai grinned. Supposedly, you single-handedly slaughtered all the experts of the various races to the point of throwing away their helmets and armor, and no one was able to stop you. How many people in this world are able to accomplish such a magnificent feat? Not to mention that you've obtained quite a bit of great fortune from the Demon Saint's secret realm. Such fortune is truly enviable to me. Lin Sun narrowed his eyes imperceptibly and said calmly, It seems that you know a lot of things. May I know why you are here this time? Zhao Tailai laughed. I'm entrusted to visit you. In addition, I believe that you must have a lot of doubts in your mind. I'm willing to solve them for you. Lin Sun was not polite at all and asked directly, Who asked you to do this? Zhao Tailai raised 3 fingers and smiled mysteriously. There are a total of 3 nobles. Who do you think they are? Miss Jingxian is one of them. Lin Sun said without hesitation. Smart. Zhao Tailai praised. When Princess Jingxian left a few months ago, she told me that as long as I got the news of you, I should take action and give you help as much as I can. Did she say anything else? Lin Sun thought of the beautiful woman who was clear and free, and he couldn't help feeling warm in his heart. It was rare and precious that she didn't forget him before she left. What else do you want to know, my young friend? Zhao Tailai smiled like a weasel who had stolen a chicken. He looked at Lin Sun with a strange look, which made Lin Sun a little uncomfortable. Senior, can you not smile so wretched? It seems that you know yourself very well. Hey, don't look at me like that. Don't you think that you should tell me the relationship between you and Jingxian now? Zhao Tailai's eyes were shining, and his smile became more and more ambiguous, which made Lin Sun more and more uncomfortable. He felt that the old guy obviously misunderstood something. Lin Sun said vigilantly, Senior, don't think too much. I have no relationship with Jingxian. Zhao Tailai smiled. Zhao, there is no other relationship between you and I and Jingxian. Tailai said. Besides, since he had already explained it, why bother hiding it? We're all on the same side. I'm just saying, why are you so nervous? Lin Sun was a little dizzy by this series of rhetorical questions. He sighed and said with a sad face, Alas, Senior, it's a troubled time for heart-cleansing peak now. How can I talk to you about other things? Zhao Tailai rolled his eyes and said angrily, Do you want to change the subject? Well, you can't get any answer from me later. As he said, he picked up the teacup and took a sip. Then he began to close his eyes to rest. This old fox is really hard to deal with. Lin Sun was speechless for a while. He got up directly and said, In this case, please have a rest first. When I finish my work, I will ask for advice from you. He turned around and left. At first, Zhao Tailai was calm. But when he saw Lin Sun's back was about to disappear at the gate of the hall without any hesitation, he couldn't sit still. Brat, are you really going to leave me here? It doesn't matter if you delay my business. But if you delay my reply, even Jingxian can't protect you. Zhao Tailai said discontentedly. Then he waved his hand with a smile on his face. Come on, come back. Let's have a good talk this time. Okay, but you have to promise me that you must be frank with me. Lin Sun seemed to be very fearless. This made Zhao Tailai gnash his teeth with anger. He muttered in his heart that Lin Sun dared to be so confident because he guessed something. Have you guessed something? He couldn't help asking. Lin Sun immediately smiled. He turned back leisurely, sat back in a chair, and said, I just came back yesterday. You came to see me as if your ass was on fire. Obviously, you have something to discuss with me. If I can't see some clues, I will be too stupid. You little fox. Zhao Tailai scolded with a smile. He couldn't help but sigh that it was more and more difficult to fool the boy in front of him after only half a year. Immediately, he said the purpose of his visit with a serious look. It turned out that Zhao Tailai was entrusted by the current emperor and the empress to bring a message to Lin Sun. Kid, you finally caused a great commotion that overturns the heavens and the earth. No matter what, since I've already promised you, I'll definitely protect you. These were the words of the current emperor. which were retold by Zhao Tailai word for word. When he heard these words, Lin Sun was shocked and cried out involuntarily. It turns out that the big shot in the depths of the palace is the current emperor. He had to be shocked. When he first entered the Forbidden City, he had received a secret letter telling him that he could make a big noise when he entered the Forbidden City. At that time, he felt that it was strange. Who dared to speak such bold words that were filled with such boldness, even to the extent of looking down on others? Now, he finally understood that the big shot in the depths of the palace was the current emperor, the supreme ruler of Xiao Empire. But why? Lin Sun was stunned. He didn't understand why the current emperor would care for him so much. It's very simple. Because you are the lineal descendant of Duke Daochun and the personal disciple of Lu Boya. No matter which identity you have, even if you are a waste, the emperor will take care of you. Zhao Tailai revealed the answer. Lin Daochun was Lin Daochun, Lin Sun's great-grandfather. He was a real life-and-death realm warrior who had fought for the empire and made great achievements. Even after his death, the empire would never forget his contributions. And Lu Boya was naturally Master Lu, a mysterious old man. Lin Sun was saved by Master Lu when he was a child, raised by him, and taught Lin Sun his attainments in spiritual tattoos. However, Lin Sun had long known that the origin of Master Lu was extremely mysterious and amazing. Both the Dark Knight Queen and the Empress seemed to be looking for traces and clues of Master Lu. Now, Zhao Tailai's words proved that even the current emperor knew the existence of Master Lu. I see, Lin Sun murmured. The appreciation of the current emperor was enough to make anyone excited. But after knowing the truth, Lin Sun was neither happy nor unhappy. In a word, he recalled a lot of past events, some rumors about his great-grandfather Duke Daochun, and Master Lu who had raised him since he was a child. If you have time, come to the palace for a chat. From now on, you're not an outsider. This was brought by the current emperor and empress, which made Lin Sun stunned again. These words were not only friendly, but also undisguised. This is... Lin Sun looked at Zhao Tailai. You asked me, but I want to ask you. Zhao Tailai had a strange look on his face. However, I can roughly guess that you must have some ambiguous relationship with Jing Xian. Otherwise, according to the temper of the emperor and empress, she would not care about you at all. Related to Miss Jing Xian? Lin Sun was still stunned. The news brought by Zhao Tailai was so shocking that he could not digest it for a while. Nonsense, Zhao Tailai said impatiently. Although the current great emperor has many children, Jing Xian is the only descendant of the great emperor and the empress. She is the apple of his eye that he dotes on. Before she left, she still remembered to take care of you. Who would think that the relationship between the two of you is normal? But this is a misunderstanding. I have nothing to do with Miss Jing Xian at all. Lin Sun was confused. Misunderstanding? Well, you go and explain to the emperor and empress in person and see if they believe it. Zhao Tailai squinted at him, as if saying, don't pretend to be obedient after getting a bargain. No, Lin Sun refused flatly. What a joke. The more it was like this, the more he couldn't go to see the couple who held the supreme power of the whole empire. Who knew what they would think of him? Would they regard him as a guy who harbored evil intentions towards their daughter? The more Lin Sun thought about it, the more confused he became. How could things suddenly become like this when he had just separated from Zhao Jingxian? What made Lin Sun most distressed was that Zhao Jingxian had already gone to the ancient desolation territory. No matter how he explained it this time, no one would believe that this was a misunderstanding. Looking at Zhao Tailai's contemptuous look, Lin Sun understood that this misunderstanding was getting worse and more troublesome to explain. It's really troublesome, Lin Sun sighed. Zhao Tailai immediately cried. Boy, what did you say? Troublesome? Do you know what will happen if the Earth and the Empress know that you said this? Misunderstanding. I said it's all a misunderstanding. Lin Sun had a helpless look on his face. There was nothing between him and Zhao Jingxian, but now things had gone out of control. Lin Sun, who had experienced this kind of thing for the first time, was caught off guard and a little impatient. Zhao Tailai snorted coldly and said, Humph, kid, you don't know how lucky you are. If someone else could be like you and receive such favor, they would probably be so excited that they would thank the heavens and earth. You, on the other hand, look like you're in trouble. Am I saying that you're pretentious or asking for a beating? Pretentious? Asking for a beating? Lin Sun's face darkened. When he was about to say something, a rush of footsteps came from outside the hall. Lin Huayan hurriedly came to report, Patriarch, Lin Zhong's action has encountered some obstacles. It's a bit serious, and you need to make a decision yourself? What obstacles? Lin Sun frowned. Lin Huayan hurriedly said, a property of our Lin family has been seized by a member of the Qin family, named Qin Ziming. It's not a big deal to deal with him, but his wife is a descendant of a prince in the imperial family. Now, that Qin Ziming and his wife are personally guarding that place. This is difficult to deal with. A member of the imperial family? No wonder Granddad Zhong felt it was tricky. If they offended the imperial family because of the affairs of the Zhou family and the Qin family, it would indeed be a big trouble. However, thinking of this, Lin Sun looked at Zhao Tai and said with a smile, Senior, do you still remember the words His Majesty asked you to bring? Chapter 672. Zhao Tai suddenly had an impulse to hit Lin Sun's smiling face with his fist. Lin Sun's smile was so abominable that Zhao Tai couldn't find any excuse to refuse Lin Sun. How could he remain indifferent when Lin Sun talked about things in the words of the emperor? Zhao Tai was very reluctant and deliberately wanted to postpone it. Lin Sun said with a smile, What's the matter? Don't the words of the emperor work in front of you? This kid really knows how to annoy people. Zhao Tai gnashed his teeth with hatred. In the end, he took a deep breath and stood up while carrying a wisp of an arrogant and domineering aura between his brows. He waved his hand and said, Come, let's go have a look. I want to know exactly which prince of the imperial family dares to look for trouble with me at this time. Obviously, he couldn't do anything to Lin Sun, so he intended to vent his resentment and anger on others. Senior, you are so bold. You deserve to be a role model of our generation. I'm ashamed of my inferiority with your domineering momentum. Lin Sun flattered him with a smile. Get out of here. Don't annoy me. Zhao Tai laughed and scolded Lin Sun. Lin Sun's attitude made him quite comfortable. He knew how fierce and domineering the young man was in front of outsiders. It was not easy for him to be treated like this. Immediately, Lin Sun left heart-cleansing Peak with Zhao Tai and Lin Huayan. Lin Huayan was old and shrewd. He had already seen that Zhao Tai's identity was extraordinary. On the way, he seized the opportunity to ask, Patriarch, may I know who this senior is? An old fox who works for the big shots in the imperial palace. You should be careful, Lin Sun said casually. Lin Huayan was stunned. Nonsense. I'm just a poor man who runs errands and does chores. How can I eat people without spitting out their bones? Zhao Tai rolled his eyes. Lin Huayan immediately stepped forward and said, Senior, thank you for your help this time. Before that, I have to tell you about Qin Ziming's wife. It doesn't matter who she is. Don't say it. Zhao Tai looked very domineering. He waved his hand and refused Lin Huayan's kindness. This senior is indeed bold, Lin Huayan praised. He was already so old. Yet at this moment, he considered himself to be a junior. Even his flattery seemed very sincere and serious, as if it came from his heart, and there was not the slightest trace of hypocrisy or perfunctory. The corner of Lin Sun's mouth twitched. Indeed, none of the older generation were simple. They knew when to put on airs and when to lower their stance. He also knew that Lin Huayan was helping him, but he did not want Lin Huayan to be looked down upon by Zhao Tai because of this. No matter what, Lin Huayan was still a member of the Lin family. Uncle, you can tell me, Lin Sun said casually. The address of uncle made Zhao Tai thoughtful. He realized that Lin Sun was a little dissatisfied with his attitude towards Lin Huayan. He smiled and said, That's fine. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you'll never be defeated. Then, I'll have to trouble you, fellow Taoist. Lin Huayan also understood Lin Sun's intention. This subtle protection was like a warm current at this moment, which greatly touched Lin Huayuan's heart. His eyes were slightly red, and his nose was sour. After Lin Sun returned yesterday, he swept everything like a demon, which made Lin Huan extremely shocked and uneasy, and he became more in awe of Lin Sun. However, it was awe after all. He was awed by Lin Sun's means and strength. Now, Lin Sun's inadvertent action made him suddenly realize that his nephew was not that kind of cold-blooded person. At least, in front of outsiders, he still remembered to maintain the dignity of his elder. This was really rare. Lin Sun did not expect that such a small action would completely subdue Lin Huayuan's heart. Submitting and being subdued were two different things. Auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion. There is a famous store with a long history in the Forbidden City. Its specifications were luxurious and high-end, and it was deeply liked by some wealthy nobles and famous practitioners. Originally, this business belonged to the Lin clan, but after the bloody incident that occurred in the Lin clan more than 10 years ago, it was occupied and controlled by the Qin clan. Now, the person who took over the auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion was a clansman of the Qin clan called Qin Ziming. He had another identity, the son-in-law of Prince Yunyang's mansion. It could be said that merely the title of Qin clan's direct descendant was enough for Qin Ziming to live smoothly in the Forbidden City. Coupled with the identity of son-in-law of Prince Yunyang's mansion, it allowed him to be even more like a fish in water in the upper class of the Forbidden City. Today's auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion was different from the past, and it seemed extremely deserted. It was even to the extent that the long street where the auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion was located was deserted, and there was practically no pedestrian in sight. Qin Ziming sat upright in the main hall of the auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion with a gloomy expression and a frown. His wife Zhao Yunji, on the other hand, seemed extremely calm and graceful. She wore a palace dress with cloud patterns of the imperial family. Her long hair was tied up high, and there was a wisp of innate pride between her brows. A group of retainers belonging to the Qin clan guarded around in silence. Each and every one of them was ready for battle. Although their weapons had not been unsheathed, their murderous intent had already spread out, which made the atmosphere seem solemn and oppressive. Does the Lin clan really intend to rebel against the heaven? Qin Ziming was very puzzled. He couldn't figure out why the Lin clan of Heart-Cleansing Peak dared to challenge the Qin clan and the Zhuo clan with only Lin Sun. It seemed that they were too reckless. The superior aristocratic families were like the towering mountains of the empire. How can anyone shake them? In Qin Ziming's view, the move of the Lin clan was no different from an ant shaking a tree. But it just so happened that such a crazy and laughable thing really happened today. Until now, according to the news Qin Ziming got, the 13 industries occupied by the Qin clan and the Zhuo clan in the Forbidden City were all seized by the Lin clan, and they succeeded. It didn't show that the Zhuo clan and the Qin clan were too incompetent, but they hadn't used their real strength, so the Lin clan succeeded. I don't know what the Zhuo clan is thinking. Why haven't they taken any action until now? Can they really watch the fleas of the Lin clan climb all over us? A strong dissatisfaction surged in Qin Ziming's heart. Today's event had attracted the attention of countless forces in the city. If the Qin clan didn't do something, it would be a great shame. Ziming, don't worry too much. As long as I'm here, no matter how fierce the Lin clan is, they will never dare to step into our auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion. Zhao Yunji, beside him, looked graceful, and her voice was full of arrogance. She was also a member of the imperial royal family. With this identity, almost no one in the Forbidden City dared to hurt her. As she spoke, she glanced disdainfully at the outside of the hall. Outside the hall was a deserted and spacious street. At this time, only Lin Zhong, Zhu Laosan, and Yang Ke were standing there. As long as they seized auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion, all the industries that had been occupied by the Lin clan would be recovered. Unfortunately, auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion was a hard bone to chew. Lin Zhong and the others were not afraid of Qin Ziming, but they had to worry about Zhao Yunji, who was from the imperial royal family. Therefore, they didn't directly take action like before. Instead, They waited for Lin Sun to make a clear decision. They don't dare to take action now, but it doesn't mean they won't later. Qin Ziming frowned. He couldn't relax at all and said, "Don't forget that Lin Sun dared to force Ling Tianho to kneel in public at the 300th birthday banquet of the Empress. At Green Deer School, he even dared to slap Princess Spirit Phoenix. Do you think someone like him will be afraid of the identity of the imperial royal family?" Zhao Yunji was a little unhappy, and her face became ugly. That being said, don't forget that he has completely fallen out with the Qin clan and the Zhou clan. Under such circumstances, does he dare to continue to anger the imperial royal family? Qin Ziming thought for a bit and said with a headache, "Perhaps this brat is not afraid of an itch because he has too many lice. Who knows what he is thinking? Even now, I still don't understand where he got the courage to go against his high-class forces." Zhao Yunji sneered. "Perhaps he is courting his own death." "Ziming, don't worry. I have already sent someone to invite my father over. I believe it won't be long before the old man personally comes to oversee things." "What? Father-in-law is coming as well?" Qin Ziming was overjoyed and his brows relaxed. That was the Empire's King Yin, a great figure from the upper echelons of the Empire. With him overseeing things, auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion would have no worries. Zhao Yunji said proudly, "That's right. At that time, even if Lin Sun personally comes, he will have to leave with his tail between his legs." At this moment, a servant hurriedly came to report, "My lord, our clan's elder has ordered you to hold the fort. It won't be long before the elites of our Qin and Zhou clans will come to help." Qin Ziming stood up abruptly, and his face flushed with excitement. "Great! Our Qin and Zhou clans have finally taken action. This time, his Lin clan is bound to pay a heavy price." King Yin was about to come to oversee things, and the experts sent by Qin and Zhou clans were coming to help. For Qin Ziming, this was like a blessing from the heavens. All the worries and entanglements in his heart were swept away. He was elated, and his whole face was glowing. He was even a little eager to fight with Lin Zhong and the others who were blocking the door. Ha! Retribution has finally come. Since last night, that kid has caused an uproar in the Forbidden City. He is simply a malefic star. We must take this opportunity to give him an unforgettable blow for the rest of his life. Zhao Yunji's voice was icy cold, and her brows were full of arrogance. Even the retainers in the hall felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders, and they were excited and joyful. The situation had changed. Zhou clans and Qin clans finally showed their fangs and dispatched their forces. They would definitely be able to give Lin clan an unexpected heavy blow with the force of a thunderbolt. Only in this way could they wash away the shame and defend the dignity of a superior clan. Chapter 673. There seemed to be no one on the cold street. In fact, the spies from the major forces in the Forbidden City had already been distributed in the dark, paying close attention to all this. From Lin Sun's return to the Forbidden City yesterday, he killed his way into the collateral branch of Lin family alone at night, and now he had a falling out with Zhou family and Qin family. The whole Forbidden City was in an uproar. This storm was raging, affecting the nerves of every major force. Everyone was paying attention to what Lin Sun was going to do. In the face of the provocation and challenge of Lin family of heart-cleansing peak headed by Lin Sun, what action would Zhou family and Qin family take? Now that things had developed to this point, it was almost time to reveal the answer. Because today, Lin family of heart-cleansing peak took back one property after another from Zhou family and Qin family by tough and bloody means. Until now, there was only auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion left. If even this place was taken by the Lin family, then the prestige of the Zhou family and the Qin family would suffer a severe blow in this battle. But would it really be so? Certainly not. As the giants of the 7 top aristocratic families in the Forbidden City, Zhou family and Qin family naturally could not tolerate such a shameful thing. If they wanted to take action to wash away the previous shame, they would never let auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion be taken away by Lin Sun again. Zhou family and Qin family are really calm. They haven't taken any action since last night. It seems that they don't care about Lin Sun's provocation. In the dark, some spies from major forces were communicating. Perhaps they're just accumulating their strength. It's fine if they don't attack, but once they do, it'll definitely be a fatal strike that's as powerful as a thunderbolt. This was the thought of most people. After all, they were the top aristocratic families with great power and power. No one would believe that they would endure and be indifferent in the face of provocation. Lin family is too crazy. Even if they want revenge urgently, how can they be the opponent of the top aristocratic families with their current strength? It should be said that Lin Sun is too crazy. He just solved the internal trouble of Lin family last night and challenged the Zhou family and Qin family without a thorough reorganization. Only Lin Sun, who is known for his ferocity, dares to do so. Many people sighed with emotion. Lin Sun's boldness was well known in the Forbidden City. No one could imagine why he dared to do this. Some big forces even gave him the title of Bold Lin, because Lin Sun's style of doing things was indeed unscrupulous. From the past to the present, every time something happened to him, it would make people dumbfounded and hard to believe. Until now, when the Lin family directly challenged the Zhou family and the Qin family, the name Audacious Lin became more and more familiar to more and more people. It was indeed too daring. In fact, he could even be described as crazy. No one would object to calling him Madman Lin. After all, such a thing had never happened in the history of the empire for thousands of years. The Lin family, which could not even be considered an aristocratic family, was led by an extremely daring youth to challenge a high-class aristocratic family. Only a madman would do such a thing. Moreover, what made the major forces speechless and shocked was that Lin Sun challenged more than one top aristocratic family. Isn't he courting death? Audacious Lin will definitely be badly beaten this time, and even the Lin family will be completely removed. Once the top aristocratic families show their power, how can the Lin family withstand it? It's a pity. If Audacious Lin could get rid of his bad habit of rampaging and ferocity, he would definitely make world-renowned achievements in the future with his title of Young Master of Spiritual Tattoos. It's a pity that he will suffer because of his boldness this time. All kinds of voices that were not optimistic about Lin Sun surged in the dark of the Forbidden City, and the eyes of the whole city were all focused on the auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion, paying close attention to every move here. They all knew that the storm that was about to happen here, no matter who won or lost, would cause a great earthquake to the whole Forbidden City and even the whole empire. Here he comes. Oh my, Audacious Lin comes in person. Is he going to stake everything on one throw? There's going to be a good show. In the dark, countless eyes all looked at the end of the deserted and empty long street at this moment. It seems that it's not as deserted as it looks. As soon as he stepped on this street, Lin Sun's great spiritual power detected that there were spies hiding in many corners in the dark. Don't pay attention to them. They're just some little rats sent by various forces. Zhao Talai didn't take it seriously. Why do I have a feeling that a storm is coming? Lin Huaiyuan was a little surprised. He sensed an unspeakable sense of urgency and depression. Lin Sun smiled and didn't comment. At the moment when he became enemies with the Zhou family and the Qin family, he knew that such a thing would happen, so he was not nervous. Zhao Talai also seemed to realize something and glared at Lin Sun. It seems that I can't escape the task of cleaning up your mess today. Senior, the capable do more work. Lin Sun smiled. The three looked calm and walked on the deserted long street, as if they were strolling in a courtyard, which surprised many spies who observed all this in secret. Zhao Talai, the boss of Tianwu Arena, it is said that he is also a member of the imperial family. Does Lin Sun want his help to take back the auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion in a gentle way? Many spies speculated. They had a vague understanding of Zhao Talai. They only knew that he was the boss of Tianwu Arena and came from the imperial family. Apart from that, they knew nothing else. It seems that Audacious Lin also realized that the situation was not good and dared not continue to insist. Some spies were disappointed. They thought that Lin Sun could be tough to the end. Who would have thought that this time he invited a helper? Humph! Zhao Talai is nothing. When the forces of the Zhou and Qin families arrive, unless it's a noble descendant, no one will be able to do anything. More spies sneered and became more and more sure that Lin Sun could not hold on under the pressure of the Zhou family and the Qin family. No matter what they thought, their eyes were still fixed on everything in the field for fear of missing any details. They all knew that this unprecedented storm that swept through the Forbidden City would completely break out in the auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion. "Young master, why are you here?" Lin Zhong, Zhu Laosan, and young Ke were a little surprised when they saw Lin Sun coming. They didn't expect that Lin Sun would come in person. "Let me have a look." Lin Sun answered casually and looked at the hall of the auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion. He saw Qin Ziming and Zhao Yunji sitting in it. Lin Sun? At the same time, Qin Ziming and Zhao Yunji also saw Lin Sun. They couldn't help but be a little surprised, and then a touch of excitement appeared in their eyes. This boy actually came to die in person. "You are Lin Sun? How dare you? Do you really think the Forbidden City is just a decoration and you can do whatever you want?" Zhao Yunji was the first to speak. Her bearing was graceful, and her chin was slightly raised. She appeared to be full of arrogance. In the past, no one dealt with you because they felt it was beneath them to bicker with a nobody like you. But now, you actually dare to provoke the imperial family and the upper-class aristocratic families of the empire. The forces sent by the Zhou family and the Qin family were about to arrive, and her father, King Yunyong, would also come as promised. Under such circumstances, Zhao Yunji was naturally full of confidence and had no fear. Even her words carried a sense of superiority. "I thought you were a great character, but it turns out you were the same as Ling Tianho and Princess Spirit Phoenix." Lin Sun smiled. His smile was very calm as he looked at Zhao Tailai and curiously asked, "That's right, senior. What kind of role does this woman have in the royal family? Why do I feel like she's not even as good as Ling Tianho or Princess Spirit Phoenix?" "Your feeling is right." Zhao Tailai nodded. Lin Sun's smile became even more cheerful. His words, along with his teasing smile, were like a knife that mercilessly stabbed into Zhao Yunji's heart. She could no longer remain calm and became a bit flustered and exasperated. You still dare to be so sharp-tongued at a time like this? You are simply tired of living." Zhao Yunji screamed in anger. "Just you wait. There will be a time for you to cry and beg for mercy." "Lin Sun, you probably don't know the situation yet. Everything your Lin family has done today has completely angered my Qin family and the Zhou family. Now that they have sent their forces here, why do you have to be arrogant at a time like this?" Qin Ziming frowned and stepped forward to speak harshly. This kind of threat was very violent and direct. However, when they heard all of this, it made the spirits of the hidden spies rise. They realized that their guess was correct. The Zhou family and the Qin family were indeed accumulating their forces to give Lin Sun a thunderous blow. Even Lin Zhong, Lin Huan, and the others were secretly shocked at this moment, and they realized that the situation had become serious. Only Lin Sun seemed to be very calm, or perhaps it could be said that he had an indifferent and composed appearance from the beginning until the end. He said, "If it's really like this, then it's even better. I've long wanted to experience the methods of the Zhou family and the Qin family." Arrogant. No matter if it was Qin Ziming, Zhao Yunji, or the hidden spies, all of them couldn't help but have a thought appear in their minds. Lin Sun really was as arrogant and rampant as the rumors said. How dare he talk nonsense about experiencing the methods of the Zhou family and the Qin family? He's really tired of living. Lin Sun seemed as if he didn't notice all of this, and he continued, "But before this, I represent the Lin family and take back what belongs to my Lin family." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhao Yunji couldn't take it anymore and screamed, "Don't you dare! When did the auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion belong to your Lin family? Don't you dare touch it! It's finally about to begin." The hidden spies were excited in their hearts, and they opened their eyes wide as they realized that this show was about to begin at this moment. Chapter 674. Lin Sun was stunned. He was not frightened by Zhao Yunji's fierce words, but he suddenly found that Zhao Yunji didn't seem to know Zhao Tailai. Otherwise, Would she dare to be so domineering and arrogant? Why not? Do you also have timid moments? Seeing Lin Sun stunned, Zhao Yunji couldn't help but show a disdainful smile. She thought Lin Sun was very fierce, but it turned out that he was just SOSO. This made her more complacent and calm. A young talent who gave the Forbidden City a headache was now deterred by her. It would be a very glorious thing if it was spread out. She opened her red lips slightly, looked at Lin Sun contemptuously, and said, "Since you are afraid, kneel down and repent. Maybe I will give you crack." Before she finished speaking, an invisible slap hit her white face, making her stagger and fall to the ground. She held her red and swollen cheeks and screamed painfully. She couldn't believe it. She didn't expect that she would be slapped to the ground so suddenly. It was not Lin Sun who slapped her, but Zhao Tailai. He shook his head and sighed, "I can't stand it anymore." Lin Sun couldn't help laughing. As a big shot in the royal family, Zhao Tailai would definitely feel uncomfortable when he saw Zhao Yunji's behavior. Witnessing this scene, everyone present was stunned. Even Lin Zhong and Lin Huaitong were a little surprised. Although Zhao Yunji was a little hateful, she was a member of the royal family after all. Otherwise, they wouldn't have delayed taking action against auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion until now. But they didn't expect that the rich middle-aged man brought by Lin Sun was so rude and directly slapped Zhao Tailai. It was so domineering. "Who are you? How dare you hit me?" Qin Ziming was furious and stared at Zhao Tailai. "How dare you slap me? No matter who you are, I will kill him this time." "Kill him!" Zhao Yunji screamed on the ground. It was a great shame that she, a descendant of a marquis, was slapped in the face in public. "Oh, kill me?" Zhao Tailai smiled, but there was no emotion in his smile. Instead, it was very creepy. What do you want to do?" "Let me tell you, the Prince of Yunyong will personally arrive." Qin Ziming was infuriated. The experts of the Zhua and Qin clans hadn't arrived yet. This made him a little flustered. "Prince Yunyong?" Zhao Tailai's smile grew even more sinister. This made Qin Ziming feel that something was wrong. How could the guy invited by Lin Sun be more daring and terrifying than Lin Sun? Who was he? Seeing this, Lin Sun couldn't help but shake his head. Qin Ziming and Zhao Yunji were just a pair of bullies who could only bully others. They were not worth mentioning. He directly ordered, "Granddad Zhong, you can start now. Kill anyone who dares to stop us. As for the rest, leave it to me, Jiao." Lin Zhong, Zhu Laosan, Young Ku, and Lin Huing, who had been waiting for a long time, all accepted the order and looked at the auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion with murderous intent. "How dare you?" Qin Ziming roared furiously, his expression completely changing. Even Zhao Yunji was completely flustered. Her hair was disheveled as she screamed. There was no trace of her previous grace and arrogance. Instead, she was like a flustered and exasperated shrew. "How dare you? Who dares to behave atrociously here when I'm here?" Right at this moment, an explosive shout resounded like a thunderclap that shook the heavens and the earth. With the voice, a dignified middle-aged man wearing a purple gold crown, a wide-sleeved robe, and cloud patterns under his feet came from afar with his hands behind his back. "Prince Yunyong Zhao Su." The spies who were watching all this in secret were shocked. They didn't expect that the nobleman in the royal family had arrived one step ahead of the forces of Zhui family and Qin family. Zhao Su was a ruthless character. He once commanded the imperial army of the Forbidden City and led the troops to gallop on the battlefield in the wilderness. He was brave and resourceful. However, he was hot-tempered and arrogant. He would kill people at the slightest disagreement, so he was crowned as domineering general by the world. Now, the arrival of such a great and ruthless figure could be imagined how great the shock was. The spies couldn't help but take pleasure in Lin Sun's misfortune. They held the mentality of watching the show and wanted to see how Lin Sun would resolve this crisis. The hearts of Lin Zhong and the others went cold as they stopped moving. They'd heard of the reputation of the Cloud Young King, Zhao Su, but they'd never imagined that with his identity, he would actually come here personally. Instantly, it caused the situation to become slightly troublesome and serious. Zhao Yunji was so excited that she climbed up as if she'd found her savior. She cried out with grievance and anger. "Father, you've come at the right time. These guys want to occupy our auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion, and they kill anyone who dares to stop them. Even I've suffered humiliation from them. Father-in-law, please uphold justice for us." Sheen Zimming also had a sorrowful expression. "You don't have to say anything. I already understand. The reason I came here is to see which bastard is ignorant enough to come here and behave atrociously. Do they really think I'm a vegetarian?" Zhao Su, king of Cloud Yong, had a murderous look on his face. His words were sonorous, and his breath was violent. As he spoke, he'd already arrived in front of the hall. He was a big shot of the imperial family and held real power. He was brave and good at fighting, and he himself was a great practitioner of reincarnation developing realm. Now, seeing his daughter and son-in-law being bullied in the Forbidden City, it was simply a slap in his face. The atmosphere in the hall was extremely solemn. Even the spies hiding in the dark couldn't help but click their tongues. The domineering general really deserved his reputation. As soon as he arrived, he showed a strong and domineering spirit, which was frightening. Now, let's see how Lin Sun would resolve this. This wasn't the power of Zhou family or Qin family, but Zhao Su's identity was there. The consequences of offending him were even more serious. Lin Zhong and the others were a little heavy. They'd calculated everything, but they still didn't expect that Zhao Su, a dignified marquis, would intervene in this matter. This caught them off guard. But in this atmosphere of mutual hostility, Zhao Tailai smiled. He looked at Zhao Su, who had just arrived and made such harsh words, and said with a playful expression, "Who do you think is the blind bastard?" Originally, Zhao Tailai's back was to the long street, so Zhao Su didn't notice him at all. When he heard someone laughing at this moment, he was a little angry, and his heart was full of killing intent, thinking that this was a great provocation. But when he glanced at Zhao Tailai's appearance, his pupils shrank immediately, as if he couldn't believe it, and he was stunned there. Zhao Yunji didn't have such eyesight. She had been slapped just now, and her anger had already rushed to her head. At this moment, seeing that the old guy was still so arrogant, she couldn't help but scream, "Father, it was this old thing who attacked me just now. He also said that as a member of the imperial family, I'm a disgrace. He's obviously humiliating me." However, after screaming for a long time, she didn't see any movement from Zhao Su, which made her anxious, and she cried, "Father, if we don't kill this old bastard, we can't defend the prestige of the imperial family." Qin Zimming seemed to notice something, and his expression changed slightly. He stepped forward to dissuade Zhao Yunji, but she slapped him away and scolded, "With my father here, what are you afraid of?" With that, she looked at Lin Sun again, "And you, I don't care what bullshit young spiritual tattoo master you are. Since you dare to come to our auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion to make trouble, don't think of leaving here alive today." Lin Sun couldn't help but sigh. He was indeed wrong. This woman's stupidity was far beyond Ling Tian Ho and Princess Spirit Phoenix. From beginning to end, Zhao Tailai didn't pay attention to Zhao Yunji's clamor. He just looked at Zhao Su and asked, "Is she your daughter?" Zhao Su made a sound of agreement. At this moment, his expression was extremely strange, and it seemed very stiff. If one observed carefully, there was an indescribable sense of nervousness on his face. He was like a little soldier facing a general, his hands and feet tied, stiff and nervous. At this moment, even the secret agents in the dark felt that something was wrong. This scene was too strange. Just now, Zhao Su was so domineering and strong. But now, why did he suddenly become silent? At this moment, Zhao Tailai seemed to be a little impatient and said, "Make her shut up." Okay. A scene that left everyone dumbfounded occurred. The dignified prince of Cloud Yong, a member of the upper echelons of the empire, did not hesitate in the slightest to slap his own daughter across the face. Ha! The crisp sound of the slap made everyone who heard it panic with pain. It could be seen how heavy Zhao Su's slap was. Zhao Yunji, who had been shouting angrily and complacently, suddenly seemed to have been beaten senseless. Her body directly fell from the sky, blood spurting out from her mouth and nose, and she fell to the ground with a thud. Then, her eyes rolled back, and she directly fainted. Before she fainted, she only had one thought. Father, why would he attack me? Did he hit the wrong person? It seemed ridiculous, but that was what Zhao Yunji really thought. Even when she fainted, she didn't realize that the atmosphere had subtly changed. In an instant, the atmosphere became quiet again. Lin Zhong and the others were startled. Qin Ziming was also startled, and the secret agents hiding in the dark were all dumbfounded. How could this be? This was something no one could have predicted, and they almost thought they were seeing things. The Cloud Yong King had come in a threatening manner, but he suddenly gave the first slap to his own daughter. This was too unimaginable. Even Lin Sun was secretly surprised. He had vaguely known that Zhao Tailai's identity was not simple, but he didn't expect that Zhao Tailai's identity seemed to be stronger than he had expected. Zhao Su, such a domineering marquis, was so obedient that he didn't even dare to let out a fart. He didn't even dare to disobey Zhao Tailai's orders. This alone showed how terrible Zhao Tailai's identity was. Otherwise, how could he make a dignified marquis become so obedient? Zhao Tailai frowned and finally seemed to hold back something. He waved his hand as if he was driving away a fly. It's none of your business. Go away. Zhao Su seemed to be relieved. He bowed deeply, cupped his hands, and turned to stand aside. Hiss. At this time, everyone present gasped and finally realized the problem. When they looked at Zhao Tailai again, their eyes had completely changed. At this time, silence was better than words. P.S. After writing this chapter, I was thinking that Lin Sun would sigh with emotion in his heart at this time. Invisible acting is the most fatal. When it comes to acting, I only admire Zhao Tailai. Chapter 675. Zhao Tailai was definitely not as simple as the boss of Tianwu Arena. This was the unanimous opinion of all the people. Even King of Cloud Yong, Zhao Su, who was a tough character among the upper nobles, was obedient in front of him. How could an ordinary person have such power and influence? There is no doubt that Zhao Tailai must be a big shot in the imperial palace. Does the imperial family also want to intervene and support Lin family in this competition? Those secret agents trembled and had a premonition that the situation had changed. Originally, the Lin family was weak and couldn't even compare to a low-level aristocratic family. The major forces didn't think highly of the Lin family. They thought that challenging a high-level aristocratic family was like an old man who had eaten arsenic and was tired of living. But if Lin family had the support of the imperial family, the situation would be different. The situation has changed. Send the news quickly. Quick, inform the big shots of the imperial family that there is a shadow of the imperial family in this incident, which will add great waves to the current situation. Those secret agents took action one after another and sent the news to their respective forces. Zhao Tailai's appearance was too unusual. In the past, they thought that Lin Sun was really bold Lin, who went to challenge the superior aristocratic families without any regard for anything, which was no different from courting death. But now they realized that they had underestimated Lin Sun's potential ability and foundation. Continue. In the field, Lin Sun looked very calm and motioned Lin Zhong to seize auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion. When he was chatting with Zhao Tailai, he knew that the current emperor and the empress had been paying attention to him. Therefore, although Zhao Tailai's performance surprised him, it was not unexpected. If he couldn't solve this problem, it would not only be a disgrace to Zhao Tailai. How could this be? Qin Ziming was out his wits and finally repeated this sentence. He was almost collapsed by the scene just now. His wife's identity as the imperial family, which he relied on, was useless. The most terrible thing was that the one who defeated them was King of Cloud Yong, whom they relied on. How could Qin Ziming not understand that this time Lin Sun invited an extraordinary big shot, and even Zhao Su had to bow his head and obey his orders? Under such circumstances, how could Qin Ziming dare to resist again? Right under his nose, Lin Zhong, Yang Ku, Zhu Laosan, and Lin Huaitong walked into auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion openly. This undoubtedly meant that it wouldn't be long before this place would once again be crowned with the name Lin family. Everything proceeded in an orderly manner, and from the beginning until the end, they didn't encounter any obstruction at all. This made the spy who was observing everything in the dark anxious. Why hadn't the Zhou family and the Qin family sent their forces yet? Would this storm-like competition be easily settled by Lin Sun? As if the voice in their hearts had been heard, a wave of extremely ear-piercing rumbling suddenly resounded in the distant space. A white-bearded old man dressed in a black robe with a sage-like demeanor stepped on a golden streak of light as he flew through the air. At first glance, he was simply like an immortal that had descended into the world, and he was indescribably carefree and possessed an imposing aura that stood above the mortal world. In the blink of an eye, he had already descended on the battlefield. He walked over to Qin Ziming's side, and when his eyes opened and closed, it was as if there was lightning flowing within them, incomparably terrifying. Qin Xuandu, a great cultivator at the reincarnation evolution realm of the Qin clan. The spy in the dark was fiercely shocked in his heart. This was an influential figure at the reincarnation evolution realm, and he was extremely famous in the Forbidden City. His cultivation was profound, and he wasn't someone an ordinary figure could compare to. The Qin clan has arrived. What kind of waves will this competition cause? Everyone hiding in the dark opened their eyes wide. Elder, you've finally arrived. At this moment, Qin Ziming was simply like grabbing onto a straw in the sea, and he almost cried tears of joy. The arrival of Qin Xuandu allowed him to finally find his backbone. Your mental state is unstable, and your vital energy is in disorder. A little youth from the Lin clan has embarrassed you to such an extent? Qin Xuandu frowned as he reprimanded Qin Ziming. The latter felt extremely aggrieved in his heart, and he was just about to open his mouth to explain when he saw Qin Xuandu speak with slight surprise. So your highness is here as well. King Yinyong stood there with an expressionless face, and he seemed as if he hadn't heard Qin Xuandu's greeting at all. He remained silent and motionless like an old monk in meditation. This caused a trace of embarrassment to appear between Qin Xuandu's brows, and he immediately snorted inwardly. Although King Yunyang's identity was special, it wasn't enough for the Qin clan to be afraid of him. You're Lin's son? Qin Xuandu's gaze swept over and locked onto Lin's son. As for Zhao Tai, he was directly ignored by him. He recognized Zhao Tai. Zhao Tai was merely the owner of the Tianwu Arena. Although he was a member of the royal family, his status wasn't that great. Yes, it's me. Lin Sun's expression was indifferent and composed. Today, you sent people to kill so many people of my Qin clan and seize many of my Qin clan's properties. Do you know your crime? Qin Xuandu's expression was dignified, and he had a condescending attitude. Lin Sun immediately smiled and said, "Cut the crap. If you want to fight, there's no harm in saying it directly. But if it's just you, I'm afraid it won't be enough." The hearts of the spies in the dark twitched. This audacious Lin was really arrogant. He didn't even bother to talk nonsense and directly wanted to use force. Moreover, he even said that Qin Xuandu wasn't enough. Looking at the whole Forbidden City, except for those life-death realm kings, who dared to challenge Qin Xuandu like this? However, Qin Xuandu was unperturbed as he said, "Young man, we all know what happened last night. To be honest, I also doubt whether you can defeat Lin Cece with your Grotto Heaven realm cultivation. But whether it's true or not, out of respect for you, and for the sake of safety, it's true that I'm not the only one who took action this time." Speaking of this, he smiled slightly, and a cold and dazzling electric light flashed across his eyes. "You should have no regrets to die in our respect." He looked like an immortal, but as soon as he said this, his killing intent was revealed. A fierce chi soared into the sky, disturbing the wind and clouds. In an instant, there was a dead silence in the field. The atmosphere was tense, and it was filled with suffocating, oppressive force. How terrifying! The spies in the dark were secretly shocked. "So, your Qin clan has made up their mind to kill me this time?" Lin Sun looked very calm. "If possible, we will try our best to capture you alive. Qin Xuandu smiled. After all, you're a young grandmaster of spiritual tattoos. If you die, there is no doubt that it will be a waste. It's better to go to my Qin clan and work hard to atone for our clan for the rest of your life. At least you can place some value. His words were casual. Obviously, he regarded Lin Sun as a meat on the chopping board. Lin Sun's black eyes narrowed slightly. But before he could speak, Qin Xuandu suddenly smiled and said, "Of course, if you surrender to my Qin clan now, I promise you will immediately become an elder of our Qin clan. Your status and treatment will not be inferior to mine, and your Lin clan will be protected. You can even ask a life-death realm king to personally guide you in cultivation." Hearing this, there was a sudden uproar in the outside world. The Qin family was an upper-level force. It could be called a colossus even in the empire. Countless top cultivators desired to join the Qin family and become a consecrator elder. And now, Qin Xuandu's offer to Lin Sun was even more amazing. He not only promised Lin Sun a high position, but also offered protection to Lin clan. He was even willing to ask a life-death realm king to personally guide him in cultivation. This was definitely a tempting offer that could drive countless practitioners crazy. Damn it, comparisons are odious. If it were me, I would directly accept it. If I follow Qin clan and have life-death realm king to guide me in cultivation, won't I be successful in the future? Some secret agents beat their chests and stamped their feet, their eyes red with jealousy. Unfortunately, they were not Lin Sun, and Lin Sun was not them. Hearing this, he couldn't help laughing again and said, "Life-death realm king to guide me? Is my great Tao something that they can point out? I should be the one to guide them." Everyone thought that Lin Sun said these words out of anger. But only Lin Sun himself knew that with the Battle Saint method and the 9 pure holy body art inherited from the sacred island of 5 elements, if he gave them to life-death realm kings, they would be ecstatic. After all, this was the inheritance of the divine path. The word divine path was enough to make life-death realm kings look up to it. Haha, you are really ignorant. Well, since you're so stubborn, don't blame us for being ruthless. Qin Xuandu sighed with regret, as if he was feeling sorry for Lin Sun. Look, you talk so much nonsense. In the end, we have to fight to solve it. Why did you talk so much nonsense just now? Lin Sun shrugged and seemed to be a little impatient. Call out your helper. Time is precious. Let's all be happy, shall we? Even with Qin Xuandu's shrewdness and self-restraint, he couldn't help but look gloomy at this moment, and a terrible cold light flashed in his eyes. He said coldly, "I heard that there are also reincarnation developing realm practitioners on Heart Cleansing Peak. Why don't you hand them over together?" Obviously, he thought that Lin Sun was so fearless because someone was helping him. "No, I can deal with you alone," Lin Sun said casually. "Good, very good. Just for your words, I will let you know that sometimes you are too arrogant, and you are doomed to die." Qin Xuandu sneered. At this time, a burst of laughter came from a distance. As I said earlier, Lin Sun is fierce and unscrupulous. There is no need to say more. Just capture and kill him. Boom, boom. With the laughter, the earth shook, as if an ancient dragon elephant galloped from a distance. In everyone's imagination, the coming person must be powerful and unparalleled. But in reality, the person who came was a woman. Her figure was extremely slender, her appearance was bright and beautiful, and her waist was slender. She was charming to the extreme. But when her feet descended, it was like an enormous mountain smashing the ground, and it emitted deafening rumbles. It seemed as if her delicate body contained a terrifying energy that was like an erupting volcano, and it brought about an extremely great contrast to others. Zhuo Baoying, a reincarnation developing realm practitioner of Zhuo family. The secret agents in the dark all gasped. This woman was not inferior to Qin Xuandu. She was a famous female Rakshasa. She killed countless people, and her hands were stained with blood. She was a very fierce character. 2. Reincarnation developing realm practitioners. Lin Sun can't escape now. However, Zhuo and Qin families are really cruel. They sent 2 reincarnation developing realm practitioners as soon as they took action. Obviously, They didn't intend to give Lin Sun any chance to live. Everyone was either shocked, excited, or gloating. Even they didn't expect that the situation would develop to this point. Chapter 676. The arrival of Zhua Baoying shocked all the people present. Even Lin Zhong, Yang Ku, and Zhu Laosan were alarmed. They walked out of auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion with a solemn look. Compared with Lin Cixi, both Qin Xuandu and Zhua Baoying were obviously stronger. They belonged to the big shots in reincarnation developing realm. In any other part of the empire, an existence of this level would be able to proclaim himself as an overlord and rule over a region with pride. But now, such two great practitioners came together to deal with Lin Sun. It could be imagined that the Zhua and Qin families obviously didn't intend to leave Lin Sun alive this time. It was a thunderous blow. This was it. Once they made a move, it made people desperate. The foundation and horror of the top aristocratic families were also vividly demonstrated at this moment. However, there were several people who reacted very strangely. Zhao Su, king of Cloud Yong, still seemed to be unaware of everything. He looked down like an old monk in meditation. Zhao Tailai, with his hands behind his back, looked at the distant sky. He looked very calm from beginning to end and was not affected at all. As for Lin Sun, he seemed very calm. His dark eyes were deep. He looked at Qin Xuandu, who looked like a sage, and then looked at the slender, gorgeous, and charming Zhua Baoying. Finally, he smiled and said, "Just the two of you? Still not enough." The spies in the dark were all stunned. Was Lin Sun really crazy? Two big shots in reincarnation developing realm. Why were they not enough in his eyes? How arrogant should he be to dare to say such shocking words? Qin Xuandu frowned and glanced at Zhao Tailai, Zhu Laosan, and Lin Zhong one by one. Then he said, "If it's just you, I alone will be enough. But if it's against all of you, it will be a little difficult for the two of us." Speaking of this, he smiled slightly. But don't worry. If Qin family and Zhua family only have this ability, they are not the top aristocratic families. Hee. Zhua Baoying also laughed. Her laugh was unfathomable. All the others present were shocked. Could it be that the forces sent by the Zhua and Qin families were more than these? Sure enough, in the next moment, the sound of something tearing through the air could be heard from afar. Numerous figures flew over like dazzling rainbows. There were men and women. Even though their appearances were different, all of their auras were connected to the heavens, and they revealed completely different and formidable might. 1, 2, 3. My God, there are 4 more reincarnation developing realm cultivators. The secret agents in the dark gasped and felt their scalps go numb. Only now did they realize that they had underestimated the power of the high-class aristocratic families. Even Lin Zhong and the others were unable to maintain their composure at this moment, and their expressions changed without end. The situation had obviously exceeded their expectations, and it had become too severe. At that moment, Qin Xuandu smiled. Originally, there was no need to mobilize so many people just to deal with you. However, we have no choice but to do this. Oh, why? Lin Sun asked. It's very simple. Kill the chicken to warn the monkey and knock the mountain to scare the tiger. A trace of disdain flashed between Qin Xuandu's eyebrows. After so many years, the world seems to have forgotten the power of our high-class aristocratic families. This time, it's time to wake everyone up and let them know that there are some existences in this world that can't be desecrated and provoked at all. Speaking of this, he looked at Lin Sun again and chuckled. This is the reason why we mobilize so many people. If we can use your death to frighten the world and let the world learn to respect and look up to the high-class aristocratic families again, then your death will be worth it. These words were full of heroic spirit and courage, but it made Lin Zhong and the others' hearts sink to the bottom. They realized that the Zhua and Qin families wanted to achieve the purpose of knocking the mountain to scare the tiger. For example, they would kill Lin Sun at all costs, because only Lin Sun's death could frighten the world, play a role. The secret agents from the major forces all felt cold all over, and their hearts palpitated. Until now, they finally realized the horror of the high-class aristocratic families. The atmosphere became deathly silent and tense. Many people were frightened, but Zhao Tailai seemed to be a little impatient. He turned his head and asked Lin's son, "Why listen to their nonsense? If you can't solve it, how about I help you?" Wow! All the people present were stunned. Didn't he see the terrible situation in front of him? How dare he say such words? Qin Xuandu couldn't help but twitch his lips slightly. He frowned a little. He was very puzzled. How could a boss of Tianmu Arena be so unappreciative? Did he really think that he dared to ignore the power of the Zhou and Qin families because he was from the royal family of the empire? Young master, Lin Zhong and Zhu Lao-san also looked at Lin's son with determination. Obviously, they were telling Lin's son that they could also fight side by side. No need. I can handle this matter alone. They want to kill me to knock them out and to scare the tiger. The reason why I do this today is to let everyone understand that the Lin family of Heart-Cleansing Peak is also not allowed to be desecrated. No matter who dares to bully us, they must pay the price of blood. To everyone's surprise, at this moment, Lin's son refused all help. There was an unprecedented disdain and determination on his calm face. The secret agents in the dark were stunned. They increasingly felt that Lin's son was crazy. How dare he be so domineering at such a critical moment? Lin Zhong and others were also anxious. Only Zhao Tailai couldn't help laughing. Well, today I'll see how much you have grown in the past 6 months. Qin Xuandu, Zhou Baoying, and the 4 practitioners of reincarnation developing realm, who came one after another, all felt ridiculous and annoyed at the moment. It seemed that the people of the world had really forgotten how terrifying their high-class aristocratic families were. Even some random trash dared to clamor at them. "Granddad Zhong, bring me the broken death. This spear needs to drink the enemy's blood in order to be the most precious weapon of our Lin family. In this way, it can live up to its name." A touch of coldness suddenly emerged between Lin Sun's eyebrows. There seemed to be a big abyss surging in the depths of his black eyes. His temperament also changed at this moment. It was like a sword hidden in the abyss, showing its peerless sharpness at this moment. "Young master, take the spear." Lin Zhong was shocked and subconsciously handed the broken death to Lin's son. It was also at this moment that everyone present realized that what Lin's son said just now was not a joke. He was serious. He wanted to fight against 6 practitioners of reincarnation developing realm alone with 1 person and 1 spear. The secret agents in the dark were stunned. They trembled all over and felt an unprecedented excitement in their hearts. Regardless of anything else, Lin Sun's boldness at this moment shocked them. Qin Xuandu and Zhou Baoying were so angry that they laughed. How ridiculous this was! How dare Lin Sun boast so shamelessly? He was so arrogant that he didn't know what was good for him. "Since you are courting death, we will fulfill your wish. We will use your blood to warn the world." Qin Xuandu's voice was cold and indifferent. His murderous intent surged. His sage-like appearance was also replaced by cold power. Boom! His whole body roared like thunder. His eyes were like cold lightning. He was like a god who had awakened, and his power shocked everyone present. Lin Sun's sleeves fluttered. His figure flashed and appeared in the void. His black hair fluttered as he looked down at Qin Xuandu and the others. He pointed the tip of the broken death in his hand and said indifferently, "Come up and die." The young man stood in the void with the spear in his hand. His posture was straight and elegant, and his temperament was transcendent like that of an exiled immortal. His elegance made the eyes of Lin Zhong and the others light up. Even Zhao Su, who had been meditating like an old monk, moved his eyelids slightly and glanced at him. Humph! Qin Xuandu was already angry. He let out a cold snort and floated up to the sky like a lion. His aura devoured the mountains and rivers and shattered the clouds. Swish! 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 At the same time, Zhou Baoying and the other 4 practitioners of reincarnation developing realm also rose into the sky and sealed off the area from a distance to prevent Lin's son from escaping. Clang! In the void, the pitch-black body of the broken death made a clear sound. Murderous airflow overflowed, and dense, obscure spiritual tattoos emerged and evolved into a layer of armor that covered Lin Sun's whole body. This was the armor with spiritual tattoos. Different from ancient treasures, it was a stunning battle weapon. Not only was it powerful enough to make many ancient treasures pale in comparison, but it also had a unique function. What a treasure! At this moment, most of the people present revealed a touch of amazement. The number of armor with spiritual tattoos was extremely limited, even in the top aristocratic families. Each of them could be called a treasure and was the most precious treasure of the family. The most terrifying thing about this treasure was that it could give practitioners the power to fight across realms in battle. A young man of Tao Insight Realm with the Broken Death in his hand. How many moves do you think he can block from Qin Xuandu? Zhuo Baoying said softly with her arms crossed. Life and death can be decided within 10 moves at most. No, I think 3 moves are enough. Brother Xuandu has been immersed in the reincarnation developing realm for many years. His strength is extraordinary. The other 4 practitioners of the reincarnation developing realm spoke one after another. They looked indifferent, and each occupied a side. They didn't intend to attack a young man of Tao Insight Realm together. After all, it would be too shameful if the news got out. I think life and death should be decided within 50 moves, Zhuo Baoying said with a smile. As soon as she said this, the others immediately frowned, thinking that she had overestimated Lin Sun. No matter how fierce a young man of Tao Insight Realm was, how could he be a match for a practitioner of the reincarnation developing realm? In the dark, a group of secret agents were also thinking about how long Lin could hold on when the battle broke out. No matter who it was, they all seemed to subconsciously believe that Lin Sun would lose this battle and had no hope of winning at all. It all depended on how many moves he could hold on before he was defeated. Don't talk nonsense, Zhao Tailai muttered to himself. He was waiting anxiously and couldn't wait to see how powerful Lin Sun had become in the depths of the Soul Oblivion Sea for half a year. Lin Zhong and the others became nervous and stared at the void. As long as Lin Sun had a little accident, they would rescue him at all costs. Boom! This time, Lin Sun really didn't talk nonsense. He held the long spear in his hand and broke through the void without any delay. Chapter 677. You're courting death. Lin Sun took the initiative to attack, which made Qin Xuandu frown. Lightning surged around him, and a dazzling electric arc condensed in his palm. Then he waved his hand. Thunder in the palm. In an instant, it was as if a real thunder had fallen from the sky, filled with a world-destroying, killing intent. That was the power of thunder. The spies hiding in the dark were all shocked and almost suffocated. It was just a casual attack, but it had shocked them and made their hair stand on end. Brother Xuandu is angry. Even a great cultivator of the same level would have to retreat, let alone a young man in the Tao Insight Realm. An expert in the reincarnation developing realm shook his head and sighed. It seemed that we don't need to use 3 moves. Maybe this attack alone will be enough to kill that boy. The other reincarnation developing realm cultivators were pleased. Thunder in the palm was a secret ancestral skill of the Qin family, and its killing power was unparalleled in the world. Qin Ziming's heart flashed with pleasure. He had almost collapsed just now, and he was extremely hesitant. Now that he saw that Lin Sun was finally going to be killed, how could he not be excited? What? Zhao Tailai was surprised, as if he had discovered something. Zhu Laosan's eyes burst with cold light, and he seemed to be a little moved. No, Qin Xuandu is in danger. At the same time, Zhuo Baoying also noticed something. Her pupils suddenly shrank, but it was too late when she opened her mouth to warn them. Boom! The pitch-black tip of the shattering sorrow pierced straight out. It was extremely simple and did not look special at all. However, at the instant that wisp of lightning touched the tip of the spear, it instantly exploded apart, and countless strands of arcs of lightning flowed and dispersed. It was simply unable to withstand a single blow. This was the unique skill of the Qin family, thunder in the palm, but at this moment, it was broken like a piece of paper. This Qin Xuandu had been full of disdain and confidence, thinking that the power of his reincarnation developing realm could completely crush all the Tao Insight realm cultivators. But now, he could no longer remain calm. His figure rushed forward like lightning, and in an instant, thousands of thunder in the palm shot out. It was like rolling thunder pouring down, covering the sky and earth. It was extremely terrifying. For a moment, the world was filled with deafening thunder, surging in all directions. This shocked everyone. Qin Xuandu's move was no different from risking his life. This was only the beginning of the fight. How could it be like this? However, before Qin Xuandu could heave a sigh of relief, he saw that the pitch-black and vast spear tip actually didn't encounter any obstruction as it stabbed towards him. Boom! Everywhere the tip of the spear passed, layer after layer of lightning palm prints were pierced through, shattered, and disintegrated before collapsing into arcs of lightning that spread out and blasted the nearby space into pieces. Qin Xuandu's expression suddenly changed. He had no choice but to dodge. He was caught off guard by this attack. However, no matter how swift his speed of retreat was, it wasn't as swift as the tip of that spear. It was simply like a peerless edge that could pierce through everything and overcome everything. Seeing that the spear was about to reach him, Qin Xuandu seemed to be completely enraged. He took out a brass ruler and clashed head-on with it. This was an ancient treasure which would not be used easily, but now was forced by Lin Sun, a young man in Tao Insight realm, which made Qin Xuandu feel ashamed and angry. Boom! However, before everyone's incredulous gazes, the tip of the spear pierced through the bronze ruler and crushed it. Qin Xuandu was so shocked that his scalp tightened. This was his most beloved ancient treasure. How could it be destroyed like this? But what made him even more furious was that after this blow, it was too late for him to block the spear tip that had pierced through. With a bang, there was a sudden roar of collision in front of Qin Xuandu's chest, which was extremely harsh. Then his whole body was fiercely thrown out by the spear tip. Everyone was stunned, and there was a dead silence in the field. In the blink of an eye, the battle had just begun. In the twinkling of an eye, Qin Xuandu was defeated. It was too fast. Before, they were all speculating that Lin Sun would be defeated in a few moves. They all thought that he had no chance of winning at all. Unexpectedly, in the twinkling of an eye, the winner and loser were decided. However, it was Qin Xuandu, the dignified great practitioner, who was defeated. He couldn't even take one spear. This made everyone dumbfounded. Even those secret agents in the dark felt that their eyes were blurred. Before they could see what was going on, the confrontation was over. Qin Ziming's eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. He opened his mouth wide as if he had seen a ghost. Zhou Baoying and others were also stunned and nervous. How could this be? Even Lin Zhong and others were stunned. Originally, their hearts were hanging in their throats. They were extremely worried and ready to rescue Lin Sun at any time. But Lin Sun's amazing spear was like a thunderbolt, which almost made them unable to believe it. Only Zhao Tailai murmured, "Sure enough, he has embarked on the most powerful and peerless cultivation path since ancient times. It seems that the good fortune he obtained in the secret realm of demons is even more amazing than the rumors said." He couldn't calm down inside. Even though he had noticed something unusual the moment Lin Sun attacked, he still didn't expect that just one spear could make Qin Xuandu unable to bear it. In the void was still roaring and disorderly, and the air was full of smoke and dust. Qin Xuandu had already stood up with a livid face. It could be clearly seen that the clothes on his chest had been torn to pieces, revealing a heart-protecting mirror. However, at the moment he got up, the heart-protecting mirror burst into pieces and fell down. Only then did everyone realize that it was this heart-protecting mirror that saved Qin Xuandu's life just now. Otherwise, Lin Sun's spear would have pierced through his heart. All the people present were horrified. Previously, when Lin Sun threatened to fight against 6 great practitioners of reincarnation developing realm alone, everyone regarded it as a joke. They thought he was reckless and arrogant to the extreme. But now, this joke wasn't funny at all, and no one could laugh at it. Qin Xuandu, a great practitioner, had been famous for many years. In the absence of a life-death realm, he could definitely be regarded as the peak of the world. But such a powerful existence was sent flying by a spear, and even saved his life thanks to the heart-protecting mirror in front of his chest. This was too horrifying. A young man of Tao Insight Realm. Even if he had a spiritual tattoo armor and could fight across realms, who could imagine that he could suppress Qin Xuandu with one blow? Everyone looked at Lin Sun in a different way. I was indeed careless. I didn't expect you to be different from ordinary talents. But now I won't give you any chance. Qin Xuandu's voice seemed to be squeezed out from between his teeth, and his eyes were extremely cold. He was shocked, angry, and humiliated. Such a thing had happened under the watchful eyes of the public. Even if he killed Lin Sun today, he would still lose face. You should thank that heart-protecting mirror. Otherwise, how could you have the chance to stand and talk to me? After Lin Sun finished speaking, he took a step forward and crossed the void, as if the ground had shrunk to an inch. Then, with a shake of the spear, he struck again. Boom! This was the second confrontation between the two. This time, Qin Xuandu was prepared and even faced a formidable enemy. He no longer underestimated Lin Sun and used all his strength. His whole body was surging with lightning, extremely bright and blazing. However, it was only for an instant. When the two of them separated again, Qin Xuandu staggered and retreated more than 100 feet in the air. His old face turned green and white, white and red, red and black. It was an extremely unpredictable change. On the other hand, Lin Sun's moon-white robe was fluttering. His black eyes were like lightning, and his figure was peerless. The pitch-black long spear added a touch of peerless sharpness to him. Hiss! The whole audience was completely shocked. If the first confrontation was due to Qin Xuandu's carelessness, then there was no fluke in the second confrontation. Did this mean that when Lin Sun faced a big shot like Qin Xuandu, he had already possessed the power to crush him? The secret agents in the dark were all trembling. Only now did they realize that all their previous guesses were wrong, ridiculously wrong. They could even imagine what kind of uproar it would cause when this scene was known by all the practitioners in the Forbidden City. Let's go together. Zhuo Baoying's face had become cold. She realized that something was wrong and could no longer treat Lin Sun as a junior. In other words, this was a terrifying young overmatch. The power he possessed was enough to make any practitioner in reincarnation developing realm pale. The only thing that made her feel lucky was that this time they sent 6 practitioners in reincarnation developing realm. Otherwise, they might not be able to defeat Lin Sun today. Kill! A group of proud and conceited practitioners in reincarnation developing realm, who had been watching from the sidelines, no longer cared about their face and modesty. They attacked from all directions together. Boom! For a moment, the wind and clouds surged above the void. The divine light swept across. The terrible secret methods bloomed into the sky, and the tyrannical treasures flowed with treasure light that illuminated the world. At this moment, even the practitioners in the nearby areas were alarmed. Some old monsters in various places of the Forbidden City all released their spiritual thoughts to investigate this side. After all, the confrontation between a group of practitioners in reincarnation developing realm and a demon-like teenager caused too much noise. In the past years of the Forbidden City, it was rare for such a high-profile duel to take place in broad daylight. Despicable! Lin Zhong and others cursed angrily. It was 6 against 1, and all of them were famous practitioners in reincarnation developing realm. But they were desperate to deal with Lin Sun. It was really shameless. Ha! We can see the real limit of this boy. Zhao Tailai laughed. He seemed to be very satisfied with the scene in front of him. His eyes were flowing with obscure and mysterious luster, firmly fixed on Lin Sun. From beginning to end, he had never moved his eyes away, as if he wanted to see through all the secrets of Lin Sun from inside to outside. At this time, King of Cloud Yong, Zhao Su, could not meditate anymore. He stared at the fierce battle in the void with a complicated expression. That youngster, turns out to be a heaven-defying and ruthless character. Fortunately, I saw the opportunity quickly and didn't attack him. Otherwise, he looked at Zhao Tailai on one side. Otherwise, even if he didn't intervene, I'm afraid I couldn't defeat that boy by myself. I might even be abused by him. When Zhao Su thought of this, the resentment in his heart disappeared and was replaced by bitterness. He knew Qin Xuandu's cultivation very well. He even thought that even if he tried his best, he could only tie with Qin Xuandu. In such a comparison, Zhao Su knew that he was not as good as Lin Sun at all. It was undoubtedly very difficult for him, a famous noble in the Forbidden City, to admit this. But the reality was so cruel that he had to admit it. Chapter 678. In the sky, the fierce battle was in full swing. In various areas of the Forbidden City, many people were paying attention to this place, attracted by this peerless duel. Clang! Lin Sun brandished the spear with boundless qi rising. The pitch-black spear was as graceful as a dragon and as swift as a thunder, wielded by Lin Sun. Although he was besieged by 6 practitioners of reincarnation developing realm, Lin Sun was not afraid. His black eyes were as deep as an abyss, and there was a fighting spirit like boiling lava burning in the depths of his eyes. Above the sky, his ice drake steps were illusory, making his figure like a divine rainbow, floating in the dust. His momentum was as majestic as the mountains and seas, and the spirit of disdain pierced through the world. Fighting Saint Method and spiritual tattoo armor were perfectly integrated in Lin Sun's way. At this moment, the cave heaven in his body was roaring and clouds were gushing out. The auspicious light was like rain, and an ancient Taoist platform stood there, surrounded by the precious light of Tao. Although he was in a fierce battle, his every move was full of Tao, with an invisible sense of transcendence. He was like a banished immortal, unparalleled in the world. His opponents' faces changed frequently, and their expressions became more and more dignified. When they really fought with Lin Sun, they realized how terrible their opponent was. They couldn't imagine how a young man in Tao Insight Realm could have such power against the natural order. Kill! Qin Xuandu no longer looked like an immortal. His face was livid, and his eyes were full of anger. He fought with all his strength. On the other side, Zhua Baoying stepped in the air, roaring like thunder. Her slender figure broke out a shocking power. In addition, the other 4 practitioners of reincarnation developing realm also fought with all their strength. No one dared to hold back or be careless. Boom! This expanse of the sky seemed as if it had been shattered, and a deafening rumble resounded. It was also like numerous great mountains were colliding, causing even the heavens and the earth to tremble. Too strong. Since ancient times, who has seen such a monster like Lin Sun? He's alone, but he's able to cross realms and fight with 6 reincarnation development stage cultivators. If this matter is spread out, even if Lin Sun is defeated in the end, he can become the king of the young generation with this battle. He could be the best in his generation and overlook all the people in the same realm. No wonder he dared to challenge the Zhua and Qin families so brazenly today. It turns out that he wasn't being insolent, but he was fearless. In the dark, the hearts of the secret agents from the various great powers palpitated, and their emotions shook. They were unable to calm down. Lin Sun's performance made them all feel awed and convinced. He was so amazing that he could be called a rare genius. Qin Ziming felt even more bitter and despondent. Could it be that even the joint forces of the Zhua and Qin clans are unable to do anything to this kid? At some point, his wife, Zhao Yunji, awoke from her coma. However, just as she stood up, the Prince of Cloud Yong, Zhao Su, slapped her unconscious again. Zhao Su had no choice. He did not want his daughter to cause any more trouble. Knocking her unconscious was also a form of protection. Zhu Laosan, how do you compare with Lin Sun? Lin Zhong suddenly asked. I can fight, but I have no chance of winning. Zhu Laosan answered in a low voice after a moment of silence. This answer made Lin Zhong, Young Ku, and Lin Huayuan realize that in the past, Zhu Laosan might be the strongest in terms of martial strength. Even Lin Zhong, Yang Ku, and Lin Huayuan were stronger than Lin Sun. But now all this had changed. In the future, Lin Sun would be the strongest in terms of fighting strength on heart-cleansing peak. This made people sigh with emotion. What kind of adventure did Lin Sun experience in the past 6 months that made such a great change happen? Perhaps only such a person would be able to enter Jing Xian's eyes. Zhao Tailai murmured and said something inexplicable. But Zhao Su, Prince of Cloud Yong next to him, heard it, which made him startled. Could it be that Princess Jing Xian took a fancy to Lin Sun? At the thought of this, Zhao Su felt a headache. Zhao Jingxian was the most supreme and unique girl in the royal family. Even Zhao Su didn't dare to regard himself as an elder in front of her. If so, the Zhuo and Qin families will be ashamed this time. Zhao Su is lost in thought. Boom! Suddenly, there was a terrible wave of power in the sky, which immediately attracted the attention of all the people present. No one knew when Zhuo Baoying took out a holy white jade umbrella. With a gentle shake, countless lingering threads of clouds and mist were splashed out like a misty rain. In an instant, the area around Lin Sun was blocked by countless silk threads. These silk threads were crystal clear, white, and hazy. They seemed to be easy to break free, but after being broken, they would condense and form again in an endless stream. No matter how strong you were, you would be tied up in it. This was an extremely magical ancient treasure. It could be called an important weapon of the Zhuo family. It was extremely famous in the Forbidden City and would not be used easily. But no one expected that this treasure was brought by Zhuo Baoying and used to deal with Lin Sun. For a moment, all the people present opened their eyes wide. How could Lin Sun fight against this treasure? Whoosh! At this time, a golden pagoda appeared above Lin Sun's head. It rotated and released a golden light. Clatter, within a radius of several tens of feet, the intertwining and seemingly endless threads that filled the sky were instantly swept away by the golden light, and there was nothing left of them. That seems like a whale swallowing water, and it was done easily and with ease. Was it broken just like that? All the people present were stunned. Even Zhuo Baoying's face changed, and she almost screamed. How could it be possible? What was the origin of that pagoda? Why was it so terrible? Boom! Unfortunately, before everyone had time to find out, Lin Sun had already put away the pagoda, and then he shook his spear and rushed at Zhuo Baoying. Oh no! Zhuo Baoying was in a state of mind. She didn't expect that Lin Sun had already attacked her. She immediately realized that something was wrong and dodged quickly. Puff! But even so, her shoulder was still pierced and her muscles and bones were broken. She screamed in pain, and her beautiful face was distorted. However, although she dodged, she felt stiff all over before she could stabilize her figure, as if she was sealed by an invisible force. There was a trace of sluggishness in her figure, which made her unable to break free. Boom! Almost at the same time, a palm print pressed down from the top of her head. It was simple and brilliant, and the shadow of a swanee emerged, pressing down on Zhuo Baoying's body when she was caught off guard. In an instant, under the horrified gaze of the crowd, Zhuo Baoying's whole body exploded. Her flesh and blood scattered and dyed the void red. The scarlet was dazzling, and the scene was extremely bloody. A great practitioner of reincarnation development realm was smashed into pieces by a palm print. Anyone who saw this would have a headache and be scared out of their wits. This was the terrifying power produced by the combination of the fourth move of 9 changes of Calamity Dragon, the Hegemona Prohibition, and the third move, the Swanee Seal. Lin Sun seized the opportunity and killed Zhuo Baoying directly, shocking all the people present. No, how could this be? Bastard. Qin Xuandu and other great practitioners of reincarnation development realm were so agitated that their faces changed greatly. They roared in anger, shaking the world. They couldn't accept that Lin Sun could kill one of them under siege. For Lin Sun, the death of Zhuo Baoying was just the beginning. Today, he would tell the world with the lives of 6 great practitioners of reincarnation development realm that the Lin family of heart-cleansing peak was inviolable. Kill! In the sky, The fierce battle became more and more fierce. The secret agents in the dark were all scared. They almost couldn't accept the fact that Lin Sun could fight against 6 great practitioners of reincarnation development realm alone. Now, Lin Sun even killed a man in a besieged way, which was even more appalling. It was incredible. Lin Sun's means had completely subverted all their previous cognition. Young Master. Young Master is so strong. Lin Zhong held back for a long time and said intermittently, but his shock couldn't be concealed. In other words, he was so shocked that he couldn't find more words to describe it. Young Ku and Zhu Laosan felt the same. At this moment, Lin Sun was like an invincible devil. Only Zhao Tailai raised his eyebrows and murmured, "I don't know whether this boy can easily kill that woman without the help of the armor with spiritual tattoos. If this boy doesn't die, Lin family will be one of the top aristocratic families soon." King of Cloud Yong Zhao Su sighed with mixed emotions in his heart. Plop! Qin Ziming squatted on the ground like a clay sculpture, as if he had lost his parents and suffered a great blow. In the sky, the rain of blood was flying. Roars and screams of pain came one after another. Over there, it became a stage for Lin Sun to kill. He was fighting fiercely with a spear in his hand. Puff! Before long, another great practitioner of reincarnation development realm was killed. His head was blown off by a spear, and his headless body fell directly from the sky to the ground in a tragic way. Boom! In next to no time, a wave of terrifying rumbling resounded. This time, Lin Sun was attacked from both sides. A bloody wound was torn on his back, which almost hurt his internal organs. But at the same time, the 2 great practitioners of reincarnation development realm who attacked him were also swept by his spear. Their bodies were cut in half at the waist, and they died violently in the void. The surroundings had become deathly silent since a long time ago. They were shocked to the point of being speechless, and they could only stare blankly at the sky, at the youth that was bathed in blood and fighting like a devil god. The spear in his hand not only drank blood, but also killed people. At this moment, no amount of shock and words seemed to be in vain because the killing was going on. The tragic and bloody scene was about to show the winner. Puff! Another great practitioner of reincarnation development realm died. He was about to escape because he was obviously scared and didn't dare to fight anymore. But in the end, his neck was pierced by Lin Sun's spear, and he died on the road thousands of meters away. No matter how fast he was, how could he be faster than Ice Drake steps? What was more, Lin Sun had already made up his mind that he would not let anyone go today. At this moment, only Qin Xuandu was left. The sage-like, distinguished great cultivator was panicking, helpless, angry, and resentful at this moment. He had no demeanor. He didn't dare to escape because he knew it was useless. But if he didn't escape, he knew that he was no match for Lin Sun alone. This kind of hopeless and helpless situation drove Qin Xuandu to the brink of insanity. Chapter 679. Lin Sun, you will pay for what you did today. Your Lin family will also be removed from the list. Being forced into a desperate situation, Qin Xuandu completely collapsed. He roared like a madman and made an undisguised threat. The whole place was dead silent. No one could calm down. Perhaps Qin Xuandu was right. The death of so many great practitioners of reincarnation developing realm today was a heavy blow even to the Zhua and Qin families. At the same time, this was a form of humiliation, whether it was for revenge or to wash away the shame. The Zhua and Qin families would not let it go. Otherwise, how could they have a foothold in the Forbidden City in the future? A dignified upper-class clan, a colossus revered by the world, had suffered such a heavy blow. How could they swallow this insult and humiliation? Unfortunately, this kind of threat might make people tremble and fear, but it didn't work on Lin Sun at all. In the sky, Lin Sun stood alone, his clothes fluttering in the wind. The dark spear in his hand was still bleeding, scarlet, and dazzling. How dare you threaten me when you're about to die? The heart-protecting mirror saved your life just now. Now, I'd like to see if you can survive. In the indifferent voice, the shattering of sorrow swept up, smashed the void, and stabbed out. Boom! The void was exploding. The spear was unstoppable and unstoppable. This spear alone made everyone realize that Lin Sun didn't care about the so-called threat at all. Otherwise, how could this blow be so decisive, fierce, and tough? Qin Xuandu's eyes widened in anger. He wanted to fight desperately, but at this moment of life and death, he retreated, embarrassed and aggrieved. He knew very well that he was no match for Lin Sun, but he didn't want to die, so he could only retreat. A famous great practitioner of reincarnation developing realm in the Forbidden City was forced into such a panic, which made many people who were paying attention to the battle feel sad. Before, Qin Xuandu was so arrogant and sage-like. He regarded Lin Sun as a piece of meat on the chopping board and had a superior spirit. But now, his companions had already been killed, and he was the only one who was forced to flee. This contrast was too big and too shocking. Die! Whoosh! The tip of the black spear drew a sharp arc, and like a stream of light, it pierced towards Qin Xuandu's throat. Qin Xuandu's face was deathly pale. He was unable to escape. This attack had already sealed off all his escape routes, making it impossible for him to dodge. However, he still didn't understand why Lin Sun didn't worry about the cruel revenge from the top aristocratic families, even if he could kill a great practitioner of reincarnation developing realm. Was there nothing in the world that Lin Sun was afraid of? Junior, how dare you? Right at this moment of extreme danger, a voice filled with indifference and coldness suddenly exploded out. Just this voice alone caused the heavens and the earth to tremble and space to fall into disorder. Many of the secret agents scattered in the dark shuddered, and they saw stars before their eyes. It was so uncomfortable that they almost coughed up blood. The sonorous voice of the great Tao was only SOSO, right? Everyone was shocked. It's the old ancestor. Only to Qin Xuandu, this sound was simply as beautiful as the sounds of nature. It made him go wild with joy, and he saw hope in a hopeless situation. However, Qin Xuandu suddenly heard a strange muffled sound, accompanied by the cracking sound of bones breaking. Immediately, the ecstasy and hope that emerged in his eyes froze at this moment. Puff! A stream of blood burst out, scarlet and hot, with a kind of poignant beauty dyeing the world in front of him red. Qin Xuandu lowered his head. Only then did he see that a pitch-black spear had already pierced his throat, and the blood that spurted out came from him. Ew! How dare you? Qin Xuandu opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but his throat was broken, so he couldn't go on. He only felt darkness in front of him, and then he completely lost consciousness. Puff! Lin Sun pulled out the spear, and Qin Xuandu's body fell from the void. So far, the 6 strong practitioners of reincarnation developing realm sent by the Zhua and Qin families were all killed by Lin Sun alone. This was a brilliant achievement that could cause a sensation in the world. It was an almost impossible miracle that was staged in the sky of the Forbidden City. No matter who it was that saw this, that person would probably tremble and be astounded. However, at this moment, all the people present had no time to be shocked. Their eyes were all looking in the same direction with more horror. In the void, there appeared an old man in a scholar's robe with a small, ancient sword in his hairbun. The old man's figure was thin, but standing there, he made the world shake. There was an indescribable, terrible power, like a king overlooking the world from the 9th heaven. Zhuangzia. Any practitioner who knew the big forces of the Forbidden City recognized at the first time that this old man was an old monster of the Zhua family, an ancestor with the cultivation of life and death realm. His name was Zhuangzia. He had been famous in the world hundreds of years ago. His power was monstrous, and his name shook the world. However, in recent years, he had been in closed-door training and rarely showed up. However, no one expected that today's action against Lin Sun would provoke such a life and death realm. This was too shocking, because it was known that life and death realm was like a god to the practitioners in the world. Ordinary things couldn't make them appear at all. But now Zhuangzia came. All the people present were silent. Even some big shots in various areas of the Forbidden City who were paying attention to this couldn't help but be shocked. Zhuo Sangjia actually came in person? How long had it been since such a big event happened in the Forbidden City? This boy is in trouble. This was the common thought of all the people. When a life-and-death realm appeared, no matter how brilliant Lin Sun's previous achievements were, he was destined to be obliterated. Perhaps only death awaited him. Lin Sun narrowed his eyes slightly at this moment. The appearance of Zhuo Sangjia surprised him for the first time, and also made his killing intent more intense. It seemed that the Zhuo family would never give up if they didn't kill Lin Sun this time. Lin Zhong and the others were all nervous, and their hands and feet were cold. What should they do? Even the life-and-death realm king had appeared. Was today's disaster destined to be irresolvable? Qin Ziming, who was squatting on the ground, cried and laughed. His mood had gone through ups and downs, and he had long been devastated. Seeing Zhuo Sangjia coming, he directly cried out of excitement. Lin Sun, you're doomed to die this time. He roared with resentment in his heart. After Zhuo Sangjia appeared, he glanced at Qin Xuandu, Zhuo Baoying, and the other reincarnation developing realm practitioners, and then looked at Lin Sun. His expression was calm to the extent of indifference and coldness. The way he looked at Lin Sun was as if he was looking at a dead man. There was no fluctuation of emotion, but the invisible power oppressed everyone present to the point that they couldn't breathe. A small remnant of the Lin family dares to stir up trouble in the Forbidden City. Today, you can't be left alive. Zhuo Sangjia didn't say any nonsense or ask for the reason. Just this sentence, as if he was judging a prisoner, had an inviolable power. This was the power of a king, disdainful of everything in the world, standing at the top of the mountains. When such a being wanted to kill a person, he didn't need any reason at all. Lin Zhong and the others suddenly changed their expressions. Many strong practitioners scattered in the dark sighed inwardly. So what if Lin Sun was heaven-defying? When a life-and-death realm king appeared, only death awaited him. Boom! Zhuo Sangjia made his move directly. This was a kind of self-willed power. No matter who you are, no matter what you think, I'll kill you first. A huge hand as white as jade, covering the sky and the earth, surrounded by the unfathomable brilliance of the Great Way, fell from the sky. Rumble, the void collapsed completely. Under the cover of this huge hand, everyone present felt a kind of despair and hesitation. But Lin Sun, who was in front of it, was calm. In his palm, there was an illusory silver light, and there was even a touch of mockery in his eyes. Oh, how powerful you are! But before Lin Sun could do anything, a disdainful voice resounded like thunder. As soon as this voice sounded, the world seemed to be turned upside down. The turbulence roared, and a murderous intent raged like a storm. As soon as this voice finished resounding through the air, the pure white palm that blotted out the sky rumbled and exploded into pieces like a piece of glass, and it was obliterated on the spot. All the people present were shocked and felt that their brains were not enough to process it. One sentence destroyed the strike of a life-and-death realm king. Who had seen it before? Only King of Cloud Yong, Zhao Su, was very calm. He seemed to have expected this. From the moment Zhuo Sangjia appeared, different from the shock of others, Zhao Su had a touch of pity, because he knew that someone would not just stand by and watch all this happen. Zhuo Sangjia's eyes narrowed. This was the first time that his emotions had fluctuated since he appeared. He looked at Zhao Tailai on the ground. Who are you? How dare you stop me from killing? He said indifferently. Everyone was stunned. It was Zhao Tailai, the boss of Tianwu Arena, who had just resolved the strike of a life-and-death realm king with one sentence. Lin Zhong and others all widened their eyes. The secret agents in the dark were even more dumbfounded. Even Lin Sun was slightly stunned. He thought to himself, it seems that I have underestimated the ability of this old fox. But what puzzled Lin Sun was that how could a figure like Zhuo Sangjia not recognize the real identity of Zhao Tailai? It seems that I've been too low-key these years. No one in the Forbidden City can recognize me. Zhao Tailai laughed at himself, and then he suddenly raised his head. There seemed to be a horrible scene of mountains of corpses and seas of blood reflected in his eyes. A volcanic killing intent penetrated the sky and shook the stars. In an instant, people seemed to see a god of slaughter coming out of the azure hell. The world was covered with horrible killing intent and blood. Some weaker people were so scared that their knees softened and they directly sat on the ground, trembling all over. Even Lin Zhong and others held their breath and turned pale. The killing intent was too strong. How much blood must his hands be stained with to have such a shocking power? At this moment, Zhao Tailai really changed. His originally stout figure became straight and towering, like a lonely peak piercing into the sky. His eyebrows were like swords, and his eyes were shining with divine light. His power was so strong that the world wailed. Bloodthirsty King. Zuozhangjia's face suddenly changed. He showed a rare look of surprise and cried out involuntarily, "How? It's you, Bloodthirsty King." Hearing this title, many people were confused and felt very strange. But some big shots in various areas of the Forbidden City who were paying attention to all this gasped when they heard this title, and an uncontrollable chill surged in their hearts. How could it be him? They didn't expect that after so many years, they would hear this title again and see this god of slaughter with their own eyes. Now, do you think I'm qualified to stop you? In the field, Zhao Tailai spoke. He was completely different from before. When he opened and closed his eyes, his killing intent soared to the sky. His words were calm, but full of compelling power. Bloodthirsty King. How could this old fox have such a title? Lin Sun was a little stunned. He remembered the time he cultivated in the Bloodthirsty camp, and the words engraved in front of the gate of the Bloodthirsty camp. Xiao Flower is invincible because of bloodthirsty, and the empire is everlasting because of war. Bloodthirsty King, Bloodthirsty camp. Was there any connection between the two? Zuozhangjia's face was gloomy at the moment, without the previous indifference and calmness. He was a life-and-death realm master. But at this time, he seemed to be extremely afraid of Zhao Tailai, which made the audience more and more shocked. Even if they didn't know what the identity of Bloodthirsty King represented, they also realized that this was an existence that could make life-and-death realm masters dread. I didn't expect that this man was so unscrupulous. It turns out that he has something to rely on. Forget it. I won't pay attention to what happened today. After a long silence, Zuozhangjia suddenly sighed and turned to leave. Compared with your brother, you are a little worse in terms of courage. Zhao Tailai snorted. Zuozhangjia was silent and floated away without saying a word. Did he just leave like this? The audience couldn't calm down. Originally, Zuozhangjia came with a fierce momentum and wanted to kill Lin Sun on the spot without asking for the reason. Everyone thought that Lin Sun would be doomed. But who would have thought that in a flash, Zuozhangjia, a life-and-death realm master, also swallowed his anger, admitted his defeat, and didn't even dare to question or fight for it. This was simply too inconceivable. Bloodthirsty King? Did this identity really have such a terrible deterrent force? The storm that took place in auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion came to an end after Zuozhangjia left. However, the impact of this contest had only just begun. Since last night, Lin Sun returned to the Forbidden City alive, killed his way into the collateral forces of Lin family alone, and beheaded a ground full of bloody heads. He announced his return in this strong way and unified Lin family overnight. Today, led by Lin Sun, Lin family launched a strong attack and recaptured more than a dozen properties occupied by Zhou family and Qin family, opening a bloody prelude. Until now, under the attention of the public, on the top of the Forbidden City, Lin Sun, with the cultivation of Tao Insight Realm and holding the death of Shatter, killed 6 great practitioners of reincarnation developing realm in the siege, shocking the audience. Even Zuozhangjia, a life-and-death realm master, was forced to admit defeat and leave. All this was because of a big shot named Bloodthirsty King. Everyone realized that the end of this storm was just the beginning. Its impact was destined to make a sensation in the Forbidden City and attract the attention of the world. Chapter 680. Zuozhangjia made a mistake in the last chapter. It should be Qin Songjia who had revised it. Qi family green trees were dancing, and tall bamboos were set off. A wooden pavilion was built on a rockery. On one side of the mountain, a waterfall poured down like a white dragon, splashing water like jade beads. Qi Ling Xiao, the patriarch of Qi family, dressed in a white robe, was sitting in the wooden pavilion, reading a Taoist scripture in his hand. Qi Tsangmei, who was standing beside him, was a little absent-minded. The Zhou clan and the Qin clan are really generous. Once they take action, they send out all the great practitioners in the reincarnation development realm. Each of them is a ruthless character who has been famous for many years. None of them is ordinary. It seems that Lin Sun has no hope of survival. Qi Tsangmei murmured. When she got the news, she was also a little shocked. She didn't expect that Zhou family and Qin family would be so cruel. Father, why did Zhou family and Qin family mobilize so many people? Qi Tsangmei couldn't help asking. Qi Ling Xiao stared at the Taoist scripture in his hand and said casually, "It's nothing more than a warning to others. The face of the top aristocratic families can't be provoked and desecrated by a little guy at will." Qi Tsangmei nodded and fell into silence. As far as she knew, today in the Forbidden City, all the major forces had sent out a tide of spies to pay close attention to this storm. Even the Qi family, the Song family, the Hua family, and the Xie family were paying attention to all this. After all, such a thing had not happened in the Forbidden City for many years. It was like a raging storm that attracted the attention of the world. On one side was Lin of Heart-Cleansing Peak, a declining family that was not even as powerful as the inferior aristocratic families. Only Lin Sun had many extremely dazzling titles. He could be called a veritable young talent who was famous all over the world. On the other side were Zhou family and Qin family. They had great power and influence all over the empire. They were like behemoths occupying the clouds. They stood for several years in the face of wind and rain. They were as majestic as the sea. Now, a conflict broke out between the two parties in the Forbidden City. This was like a big earthquake. No matter who it was, they would not be able to sit idly by. Unfortunately, this kid is too impatient. With his resources and potential, he would only need to wait a few decades or a few hundred years to truly possess the enormous strength to fight a high-level clan. But it just so happened that he overestimated his own ability and made a move. In Qi Tsangmei's view, Lin's action was no different from courting death. In the past, I thought that he was destined to be a peerless figure that could shock the past and the present. But now it seems that his flaws are too obvious. Just the flaws of unbridled and reckless are enough to kill him. This was Qi Tsangmei's cognition and judgment of Lin Sun. The advantages were obvious, but the defects were also too fatal. It's time for this storm to end. Suddenly, Qi Ling Xiao, who was reading Taoist scriptures, raised his head thoughtfully. "Father, what do you think of the result?" Qi Tsangmei asked quickly. "Ha." Qi Ling Xiao chuckled. "Don't you already have the answer in your heart? Remember, this kind of aristocratic family can't be insulted. No matter who is insulted, he will die." Qi Tsangmei felt a kind of unspeakable regret in her heart. She had always regarded Lin Sun as an opponent, and he was her most feared opponent. Once, even their Qi family had dealt with Lin Sun, but they were finally resolved by Lin Sun. Even her younger brother, Qi Tsangfeng, was almost killed by Lin Sun at the 300th birthday party of the Empress. Qi Tsangmei thought about how to defeat this opponent all the time, but she didn't expect that such an opponent would die under the hands of Zhou family and Qin family today. This made her a little sad and regretful. It's a pity that in recent years, such an evildoer has finally appeared in the empire, but he will die today. Qi Tsangmei sighed faintly. "You don't understand at all. From ancient times to the present, there are so many peerless evildoers, but most of them die early like meteors in the sky. Although they are bright, they are gone in a flash." Qi Ling Xiao chuckled disapprovingly. "In this vast world, only our superior aristocratic families can survive for a long time and stand firm in the face of wind and rain. In the future, you will understand that evildoers and talents are not worth mentioning in the eyes of our aristocratic families. Ling Xiao, the old ancestor, summons you. Come to the ancestral temple quickly. Suddenly, a deep voice resounded, causing Ling Xiao to be slightly startled. The ancestor has come out of closed-door cultivation? What alarmed him? It's related to Lin's son. When hearing this, Ling Xiao suddenly stiffened, and a touch of surprise flashed in his eyes. Did Lin's son not die in this storm? Without any nonsense, Ling Xiao flashed away in a hurry. Only Tsangmei stood there alone, and her face was also full of doubts. It's related to Lin's son? But how could the old ancestor be alarmed by his life and death? The old ancestor of Qi family, an antique, had been practicing for nearly 1,000 years. But today he summoned the big shots of the clan because of Lin's son, which was too shocking. Report. Before long, a secret agent appeared in a panic and said quickly, "Miss, it's not good. Lin's son, he is not dead." What? Tsangmei was completely stunned. Not dead? 6 practitioners of reincarnation developing realm failed to kill him? Could it be that someone intervened and saved his life? It must be so. Otherwise, how could he survive with the cultivation of Tao Insight Realm? Who helped him? Tsangmei asked. She took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. The spy was stunned. He knew that Tsangmei misunderstood him. So he quickly explained what happened above Auspicious Sun Treasure Pavilion. When she learned that Lin's son killed 6 practitioners of reincarnation developing realm, such as Qin Xuandu and Zhuo Baoying by himself, Tsangmei's head was like being struck by lightning. She couldn't calm down at all. How could he be so strong? Tsangmei screamed. She knew that she had lost her composure, but she couldn't care so much at this time. At the thought of Lin's son's ferocious record, she felt uncomfortable all over and her face became gloomy. What? Qin Songjia, the old ancestor of Qin family, also took action? When she learned this, Tsangmei took a breath of cool air. She finally realized why her old ancestor was alarmed and why he summoned her father in a hurry. It turned out that there was a life-death realm king in this storm. It was amazing. In recent years, such a thing had never happened in the Forbidden City. Immediately, Tsangmei realized something and asked, "So, Lin's son has been dead since Qin Songjia took action, right?" The spy shook his head bitterly. No, Qin Songjia was so scared that he admitted defeat and fled in panic. He didn't even put up a fight. Miss, I still don't understand it. 3 practitioners of reincarnation developing realm died in Qin family, but Qin Songjia admitted defeat directly. Is he really a life-death realm king? Scared off, Tsangmei was completely confused. In the Forbidden City, who had such a terrible power that could make Qin Songjia admit defeat directly? Her scalp was numb. The news was so appalling that she couldn't accept it for a while. Who is it? Zhao Tailai, the boss of Tianwu Arena. Bullshit. The fat man is a smooth and slick character in the royal family. How could he have the ability to scare away the life-death realm king? But it's true. Not only me, but also the spies of other families present saw it with their own eyes. It's absolutely true. By the way, Zhao Tailai seems to have another identity. What? Bloodthirsty king. When it came to this, Tsangmei was also completely confused. She was also very strange to this name. She had never heard of it. But her intuition told her that this bloodthirsty king was the most terrible one. It was because of his appearance that the old ancestor of her family was alarmed. At the thought of this, she was shocked and complicated. She murmured, "Is Lin's son really unkillable? Father's wrong. This guy is not a fleeting meteor at all. He is not bold. He has something to rely on from the beginning to the end." At this moment, there was a strong unwillingness in Tsangmei's heart. Lin's son, what kind of person was he? On the same day, the senior officials of Qi family gathered together and made a decision. From today on, no one could intervene in anything about Lin's son. When she heard the news, Tsangmei was suddenly lost. She knew that even her family had made such a decision. In the future, no one in the empire could restrain the rising momentum of Lin's son. As Chi Tsang may guessed, not only Qi family, but also Hua family, Song family, and Xie family held an emergency meeting that day and made a similar decision on this matter. The content of the decision was very intriguing. They would never provoke Lin Sun, but they would never be afraid of trouble. In fact, this was equivalent to acquiescing in Lin Sun's position in the Forbidden City in a disguised way. And some other forces in the Forbidden City, large and small, were also shocked when they learned all the news. They were shocked by Lin Sun's fighting power and the bloodthirsty king, who scared Qin Sangjiao back with a word. From now on, who dares to provoke Lin family of heart-cleansing peak in the Forbidden City? Lin Sun alone is comparable to a great family. As long as he doesn't die, Lin family will definitely become one of the top aristocratic families in the future. I have lived in the Forbidden City for so many years, but I have never seen such a monster like Lin Sun. On this day, the Forbidden City was completely in an uproar. All kinds of news appeared on the desks of the major forces like an overwhelming tide. In the central core area of the Forbidden City, the huge spiritual light curtain also began to broadcast the war that caused a great disturbance in the city. Moreover, when broadcasting the news, a senior practitioner of reincarnation development realm was specially invited to comment as a guest. However, the guest seemed to be too excited and nervous. After holding back for a long time, his face turned red, and he said a sentence. Chapter 681. Crown all over the capital? What a big tone. When hearing this evaluation, the Forbidden City was in a sensation again. Many practitioners disdained it and thought it was exaggerated. How could a young man like Lin Sun afford such a great praise? But this kind of disdain was laughed at by others, who thought they were jealous and envious. But most practitioners still agreed with this evaluation. It had only been 3 years since Lin Sun entered the Forbidden City, but he had created many legends and made many dazzling achievements. Young Grandmaster of Spiritual Tattoos, Instructor of Green Deer School, Master of Heart Cleansing Peak. There were too many halos shrouding his head. Until now, he had killed 6 reincarnation developing realm cultivators with 1 spear strike and forced the Zhua and Qin clans to return in defeat. How could a young heaven son of heaven like him not deserve such praise? Child was unparalleled in the world and crowned all over the capital. Lin Sun could afford it. Some people were happy, while others were sad. In the Zhua and Qin families, it was gloomy. According to the gossip, when Qin Sangjiao returned to the clan, he smashed many expensive teacups on the spot, which made the whole Qin family silent. There was also gossip that when an old ancestor of Zhua family was in closed-door practice, he was so angry that he almost went mad, which made the senior members of Zhua family in a mess. But no matter what, the impact of this storm had begun to ferment and show its power. It was spreading from the Forbidden City to the whole empire and the whole world. While this uproar was taking place, Lin Sun, Lin Zhong, and others were taken to a remote and quiet place by Zhao Tailai. This place was called Moon House with Embracing Stars. It was a restaurant with a transcendent name, Embracing Stars and Sleeping Moon. Perhaps only immortals could be so carefree and transcendent. But here, it was indeed a restaurant. The owner of the restaurant was a thin, grumpy old man with sparse hair who had nothing to do with immortals. He was called Old Man Du by Zhao Tailai. In short, he was an old man who lived alone. Du So rolled his eyes at the sight of Zhao Tailai and the others. With a look of disdain, he scolded, "Are you in debt here to freeload again?" Zhao Tailai giggled and patted his chest boldly, saying, "Someone is paying the bill this time. Give us a table of your best dishes." Du So snorted coldly and went into the kitchen, where he began to cook. "Kid, you have to remember him." Zhao Tailai smiled mysteriously and transmitted his voice to Lin Sun. "This is the only old monster who abandoned the Tao and cultivated alone. Although he has no cultivation, no one can kill him in the mortal world." Lin Sun was shocked. Originally, he didn't care much about Du So, but Zhao Tailai's words made him realize that Du So was a great man. He abandoned the great Tao and cultivated his body alone. This alone was enough to shock Lin Sun. He couldn't help asking. Not even a sage? Zhao Tailai shook his head. I'm not sure, but what I can tell you is that this old man once unintentionally said that the so-called divine path of the present world is inferior to his self-cultivation method. Of course, he might just be boasting. Lin Sun was stunned. Before long, a table of dishes was served. They were neither good nor bad, but they were all food that Lin Sun had never seen before. Zhao Tailai's eyes lit up. He picked up the chopsticks and wolfed down the food. While eating, he said excitedly, hurry up, hurry up. It's the third time I've eaten the dishes cooked by this old man in my life. Seeing that he was so exaggerated and serious, Lin Sun, Lin Zhong, Young Ku, and Zhu Laosan all ate without hesitation. Just one bite made Lin Sun's eyes go straight and his heart tremble. The tip of his tongue seemed to loosen all the taste buds, and an indescribable, wonderful taste exploded all over his body. It was so delicious. Lin Sun originally wanted to ask what the dishes on this table were and what the condiments and ingredients were. But now, he didn't care about these things. Like Zhu Laosan, he buried his head in the food. Lin Zhong, Young Ku, and Zhu Laosan were also like that. All of them were like hungry ghosts that had been reincarnated. For a while, there was only the sound of chewing in the room, which was very weird. After all, there wasn't a single person present here that hadn't seen the world. Moreover, they'd attained an extremely high realm of cultivation a long time ago, and it was sufficient for them to abstain from eating. But now, they all ate like gluttons, which was amazing. After a while, the dishes on the table were cleaned up. Zhao Tailai smacked his lips and sighed. I don't know when I'll be able to eat such delicious food again. It's easy. As long as you pay off all the debts, you can eat whatever you want. Du So stood at the door like a ghost, staring at Zhao Tailai coldly with a pair of turbid eyes. Lin Huayuan couldn't help saying, Boss, how much is this table of dishes? I'll pay. Du So sneered. How arrogant you are. Do you know how much this table of dishes is worth? How dare you ask for it? Lin Huayuan was a little embarrassed and confused. Was there something special about it? Zhao Tailai said with a smile. I can only pay for the previous debts, but today's meal must be paid by this boy. He pointed at Lin Sun. Lin Sun was stunned. He had vaguely felt that there must be a reason why Zhao Tailai brought him here to meet the mysterious Du So and eat this table of delicious dishes. But he still didn't expect that Zhao Tailai brought him here just to pay the bill. Du So looked at Lin Sun. At that moment, Lin Sun suddenly felt that all his secrets were seen through, which made him feel uneasy. This shocked him. He was sure that this Du So had no cultivation at all and was no different from ordinary people. But his eyes seemed to be able to see through the mysteries of heaven and earth, penetrating directly into people's hearts, which was extremely mysterious. Du So quickly withdrew his eyes and said disdainfully, Even if you go to the bloodthirsty battlefield, you can't pay for my meal. The bloodthirsty battlefield. Finally, at this moment, everyone, including Lin Sun, realized that the price of this meal was indeed very particular. But what kind of place was the bloodthirsty battlefield? The meal has been eaten and the debt has been paid. I have to try whether I can pay for it or not. Zhao Tailai's expression became serious, which was rare. I believe in him. Humph. Du So was silent for a moment, and then he turned around and left with a cold snort. Lin Sun and others were still confused until they left the Sleeping Moon house. They asked Zhao Tailai, but Zhao Tailai didn't say anything. This made Lin Sun very dissatisfied. He said, Senior, I was cheated by you without any reason. You don't even give me a reason? Zhao Tailai said angrily, Boy, I helped you scare away Qin Songjia. This is a life-saving grace. How can you say that? Different from the arrogant and murderous spirit when he faced Qin Songjia, Zhao Tailai was still the slippery old fox that Lin Sun knew at this moment. Lin Sun said with a faint smile, My life? This is the arrangement of the current emperor. You're just following orders. How dare you take credit for it? What's more, do you think I don't have the ability to deal with Qin Songjia? As soon as these words came out, Lin Zhong and others were all shocked. Did the young master have the means to protect himself at that time and fight against a life-death realm king? If this was true, It would be too amazing. Zhao Tailai seemed to realize something, and his eyes became strange. He drew a line in the void with his finger, and suddenly a light curtain appeared. What was reflected in the light screen was the scene when Qin Sangjiao appeared and wanted to kill Lin Sun. What you rely on is the treasure in your palm, right? Zhao Tailai asked. Looking carefully, it was indeed found that there was a trace of illusory silver luster in the gap of Lin Sun's left palm, which was extremely subtle. Yes, Lin Sun didn't explain. That was the vast universe Arkansas. Although it couldn't fight against life-death realm kings, it could avoid their attacks. Nevertheless, this fact still made Lin Zhong and others feel emotional. Sure enough, Lin Sun had the means to protect himself even in the face of life-death realm kings. Perhaps this was what he was relying on the most. That being said, you still have to thank these people in the future, because even if I didn't take action at that time, they would have helped you to solve the problem. As Zhao Tailai spoke, his finger made a stroke again. The light screen circulated, and a series of scenes appeared. One of them was a tall and sturdy fat man, an old man with eyes like lightning and an iron-blooded aura soaring to the heavens, and a skinny middle-aged man wearing a black hat. The three of them stood in different areas, but when Qin Sangjiao appeared, all of them showed a hint of fighting intent, which was a sign that they were about to take action. Lin Sun was completely stunned at this moment. He thought these three people were Fortune God Sure of Keystone House, Blood King Ning Bugue, and Ancestor Gong Bupo of Gong family. It turns out that they were also there at that time. Lin Sun felt an indescribable warmth in his heart. Only then did he realize that he was not fighting alone at that time. As for Lin Zhong and others, they were shocked to the extreme. Who could imagine that there were three life-death realm kings hiding in the dark to protect Lin Sun? If this news spread out, how big a storm would it set off in the Forbidden City? You see, although you have many enemies, there are also many people who value you. But after this battle, I'm afraid no one in the Forbidden City will take the initiative to provoke you in the future. Zhao Tailai said meaningfully. Lin Sun was stunned. He squinted at Zhao Tailai and said, "Why do I feel that the more you say like this, the more malicious you are?" Zhao Tailai laughed and then scolded fiercely, "Nonsense!" On the halfway, Zhao Tailai floated away. Before leaving, he said that he would visit Heart-Cleansing Peak again after a while. Lin Sun knew that when the so-called after a while came, Zhao Tailai might tell him the purpose of letting him owe money to due south. When Lin Sun and his party returned to Heart-Cleansing Peak, they saw the four branches of Northlight, Westbrook, Floating Cloud, and Flying Peak, as well as the villagers of Feiyun Village were already waiting there. Welcome back. Chapter 682. Lin Sun's return was welcomed by all the people in Heart-Cleansing Peak. This kind of grand occasion had never happened before. Looking at the faces with admiration, fanaticism, excitement, and every familiar or strange figure, Lin Sun had an indescribable feeling in his heart. Lin Sun also had an indescribable feeling in his heart. After 3 years, the internal trouble of Lin family was finally solved, and those foreign enemies would not dare to invade easily from now on. Thinking of the experience in the past 3 years, Lin Sun announced on the spot that the first clan meeting after the unification of Lin family would be held 3 days later. From yesterday's return to the Forbidden City to today, too many things happened overnight. Lin Sun also needed time to digest them little by little. The newly unified Heart-Cleansing Peak also needed time to integrate and re-establish new orders and arrangements. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. In the morning before dawn, Xiaoyan had already dressed neatly and pushed the door out. "Nice to meet you, steward. Manager Xiaoyan. You have to take care of our former brothers in the future. Xiaoyan, let's have a drink in the evening. I specially ordered a table of good food from Imperial Treasure Building. I'm waiting for you tonight." Along the way, some servants greeted Xiaoyan warmly when they saw him, more or less with a trace of flattery. Xiaoyan just responded calmly and walked farther and farther away without paying much attention to them. In fact, he was also a little excited in his heart. A few months ago, he was just a little servant who did chores like serving tea, pouring water, watering flowers and weeding. Yesterday, he was selected by a noble and directly promoted to a steward. He was in charge of 30 servants and maids. To Xiaoyan, this was undoubtedly equivalent to reaching the heavens in a single bound. Don't be excited. I must be steady. I can't make any mistakes at this time. Xiaoyan warned himself in his heart. Bah, he's just a brat who hasn't even grown his hair yet. It's just that he caught the eye of Chief Steward Ma Yong while he was working yesterday, and he actually managed to rise to the ranks of the stewards. He's really King lucky. When Xiaoyan left, some servants muttered sourly. The jealousy and envy on their faces could not be concealed. There were also some servants who had shared weal and woe with Xiaoyan before. They must serve Xiaoyan well in the future. Maybe they could take this opportunity to turn over. Xiaoyan didn't know all this. At this moment, he had come to the room of Steward Ma Yong. He carefully sorted out his clothes, took a deep breath, bowed and stood outside the door, waiting quietly. It didn't take long before the tightly shut door opened, revealing Ma Yong's lean figure. Xiaoyan, why are you here? Ma Yong was surprised. He keenly noticed that Xiaoyan's hair was stained with some dew and frost. He had been waiting here for a long time. Yesterday, I was fortunate enough to receive your favor. I am in awe and trepidation, and I do not know how to repay you. Before she could finish, Ma Yong interrupted. You don't have to do that. I'm promoting you because you're smart and intelligent. You have great potential and are much better than the others. There were 1,000 gold coins in the storage bag. Xiaoyan had worked hard to save them over the years. When he took them out at this moment, he felt a little pain in his heart, but he didn't care about it anymore. In order to have a better foothold and heart-cleansing peak in the future, these sacrifices were nothing. But he didn't care anymore. In order to have a better foothold and heart-cleansing peak in the future, these sacrifices were nothing. However, Ma Yong's face darkened, and he slapped the storage bag to the ground. He shouted sternly, Brat, you're trying to harm me. Xiaoyan's heart trembled. His face turned pale. He was at a loss. How could he expect that he would encounter such a thing when he sent gifts to the steward for the first time? Ma Yong took a deep breath and warned coldly. Remember, this is heart-cleansing peak. I'm optimistic about your potential. I don't want you to send me these things. If you really want to thank me, you should show all your abilities and work for our Lin family wholeheartedly. If you dare to play these tricks again, I'll drive you out of heart-cleansing peak immediately. Xiaoyan trembled with fear. He became more and more nervous and panicked. He hurriedly shouted, I dare not do it again. Please forgive me this time. Ma Yong's expression eased. He patted Xiaoyan on the shoulder. Boy, do you know how many people in the Forbidden City want to be servants of our Lin family? Too many to count. The queue can be as long as 10 miles every day. Because our Lin family is not the same as before. With the patriarch, even the top aristocratic families dare not offend us. How powerful they are. To put it bluntly, our Lin family will only get better and better in the future. Maybe one day we can return to the ranks of the top aristocratic families. At this time, if you accept some small money, what's the difference between you and your own future? Xiaoyan finally confirmed that the reason why Ma Yong didn't accept money was that he wanted to have a higher and more stable position in Lin family in the future. Let's go. Today is the day when the patriarch holds a clan meeting. At this time, we, as servants and servants, must not make any mistakes. If your performance today satisfies me, I'll let bygones be bygones. Ma Yong hurried forward as he spoke. Xiaoyan hurriedly followed him. Director Lin Zhong, you came early? It wasn't long before Xiaoyan's jaw dropped. Ma Yong, the steward whom she worshipped the most, was currently jogging over to one of the old men with a warm and humble smile on his face. It was an expression of unspeakable deference and respect. The steward, Xiaoyan was stunned. In his heart, Ma Yong was like a god among his servants. He had great authority and high status. Xiaoyan had been encouraging himself in his heart. If he could reach the position of steward Ma Yong in this life, he would die without regret. But at this time, when he saw Ma Yong's humble posture, it brought an unspeakable shock and impact to Xiaoyan's heart. What are you doing? Come and greet Director Lin Zhong. Ma Yong turned his head and scolded Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan hurriedly stepped forward and saluted. He finally remembered who Director Lin Zhong was, like a flash of lightning in his heart. He was a big shot who served the patriarch. It was said that Director Lin Zhong had served the former patriarch. His status in Heart-Cleansing Peak was terrible. In the hearts of those servants in Heart-Cleansing Peak, Lin Zhong was like a celestial figure. Lin Zhong glanced at Ma Yong and Xiaoyan, nodded and said, "Cheer up and do a good job today." After that, he turned around and left. Ma Yong hurriedly bowed and sent him off. Only after Lin Zhong had walked far away did Ma Yong straighten his back and say with a sigh, "Little Yin, did you see that? Supervisor Lin Zhong is my goal. If I could have even a third of his ability in this life, I would have no regrets even if I died." Xiaoyan was stunned and his heart was rolling. He didn't tell Ma Yong that from this moment, he also regarded Lin Zhong as the peak he longed to reach in this life. When Ma Yong took Xiaoyan to the top of Heart-Cleansing Peak, although it was just dawn, the empty mountain plain was already full of figures. The 4 branches of Lin family, Northlight, Westbrook, Floating Cloud, and Flying Peak, had already been waiting there. Everyone looked serious and didn't dare to talk nonsense. They waited quietly. Only the whistling sound of the mountain wind in the morning reverberated. In addition, the villagers of Feiyun Village, Old Jiao, Yangling, Ci, Shui, and others had also come to the scene. There were so many figures, but there was no noise and chaos. The atmosphere was extremely solemn. Xiaoyan's heart trembled. As a servant, it was the first time for him to see so many big shots, which made him a little breathless. He and Ma Yong stood at the edge of the crowd. In this area, there were some other maids, stewards, and servants. What made Xiaoyan stunned was that at the forefront of the scene, even the top big shots of Heart-Cleansing Peak, such as Supervisor Lin Zhong, Lin Huayuan of Northlight Lin, and Yangku of Yangku, had already arrived. No one was late, and no one dared to whisper. Ma Yong and Xiao Yin were also shocked because they saw Lin Beiguang, the patriarch of Northlight Lin, Lin Cc, the patriarch of Westbrook Lin, and Lin Yunheng, the patriarch of Yunheng Lin, all of the elders. With their identity, they could enter the hall and participate in this clan grey robe. But at this moment, they stood there and waited like others. The majesty of the patriarch can be seen here. Ma Yong sighed with emotion in his heart. He couldn't help thinking of some legendary stories about his patriarch in his mind. An unspeakable admiration arose in his heart. Clang! When the dawn of the morning rose from the horizon and illuminated the mountains and rivers, a deep bell rang leisurely on the top of Heart-Cleansing Peak. Everyone present was shocked and looked more solemn. Their eyes were all fixed on the high steps of Heart-Cleansing Hall. At this moment, the atmosphere actually carried a solemn and sacred sense of solemnity. A handsome figure bathed in the morning light walked out of the hall under the attention of thousands of people. He was dressed in a moon-white robe. His black hair was fluttering, his straight eyebrows were straight, his handsome and resolute face was indifferent and calm. His figure was full of illusory halo in the morning light. In a trance, people thought that he was a banished immortal who came from the sacred, with an invisible majesty that shocked the soul. "Greetings, Patriarch!" At this moment, all the people present saluted in unison. The neat and uniform voice was like a big drum, stirring the world. At this moment, Lin Sun glanced at the audience. He wondered if his father and mother, who he had never met, would they feel gratified to see this scene? Inadvertently, Lin Sun noticed that there was an imperceptible tear in the corner of Grandad Zhong's eyes. Grandad Zhong looked absent-minded and excited. Maybe he thought of his parents at this moment, just like Lin Sun. After a long silence, Lin Sun took a deep breath. Facing the morning sun, he glanced at the audience and said slowly, "Today's Lin family is different from before." Chapter 683. At the meeting that day, Lin Sun announced a lot of things. For example, after unifying the collateral forces of Lin family, it was an extremely trivial and complicated thing to arrange the duties of every clansman of Lin family. It involved the interests of every collateral force, so it must be properly solved. Otherwise, many small hidden dangers would be buried. Lin Sun gave Lin Zhong full authority to deal with this matter. Lin Zhong and other big shots of the collateral forces would negotiate and discuss it. In addition, there were some arrangements for cultivating the younger generation of Lin family, revising the clan rules and regulations, expanding and consolidating the power of heart-cleansing peak. These were all aspects of things that a big clan must face. If they were not arranged well, there would be trouble sooner or later. Fortunately, Lin Sun only needed to provide a general framework for these things, and the specific affairs would be handled by others. At the end of the clan meeting, Lin Sun announced something beyond everyone's expectation. That was the heir of Lin family. It was also at this time that Lin Sun made it clear that he might leave for a long time before long. For the future development of Lin family, the position of the head of Lin family would inevitably be handed over to one of the clansmen in the future. At the same time, Lin Sun announced the rules of competing for the position of heir of Lin family, indicating that he would select an heir from the 4 collateral forces of Lin family within 10 years. Within 10 years, the clansmen of the 4 collateral forces could participate in the competition, but the final result needed to be finalized by Lin Zhong. As for Lin Zhong, he would master the death of Shatter, a treasure of the clan. When the heir was selected, Lin Zhong would be the protector of the clan and fully assist the new patriarch. This matter was of great significance. It was a decision made by Lin Sun and Lin Zhong after a long discussion. Lin Sun was destined not to stay in heart-cleansing peak all his life. He still had many things to solve. Under such circumstances, it was undoubtedly the safest way to select a new patriarch to take charge of the overall situation of Lin family in 10 years. When they learned the news, the clansmen of the 4 collateral forces of Lin family were in a complete uproar. They could hardly believe it. Even Lin Beiguang, Lin Cece, Lin Yunheng, and other big shots of the older generation were all stunned. No one expected that Lin Sun had already begun to make arrangements for the successor as soon as he took charge of Lin family. This undoubtedly proved that in Lin Sun's heart, he had no greed for the position of the head of Lin family at all. This made many big shots look complicated. If they had known this earlier, who would have chosen to fight against Lin Sun before? Everything was because they had placed too much importance on the war of the heavenly Tao. On the other hand, the members of the branch family of the Lin clan were excited, their blood boiled, and they were filled with fighting spirit. Today's Lin family had long been famous in the Forbidden City, and its power was like the sun at high noon. Even the top aristocratic forces dared not to offend them easily. It could be said that as long as there were no natural disasters, sooner or later, the Lin family would definitely return to the ranks of the upper class. In this case, if anyone could take charge of Lin family and become the master of heart-cleansing peak, it was no different from reaching the sky in a single bound. In the Forbidden City, he was also a role that could make countless people awe. He could be on an equal footing with the real upper-class nobles. Such a position would be born among the 4 collateral forces. Although 10 years was not a short time, who wouldn't be tempted? Even Lin Huayuan's heart palpitated with excitement. As for Lin Beiguang, Lin Cece, Lin Yunheng, and the other important figures of the older generation, they were already deep in thought. In these 10 years, they were thinking about what they should do in order to nurture a candidate from their respective clansmen who could shoulder the responsibilities of the Lin family. But they all knew that such a competition was destined to be difficult and fierce. Among the 4 branches of power, it was destined that none of them would watch as a successor to the Lin family appeared in the other side's clansmen. This was the purpose of Lin Sun's arrangement. He wanted the 4 collateral forces to compete with each other. Only in this way could a successor who could take charge of Lin family be selected through layers of assessment and selection. Of course, Lin Sun also arranged Lin Zhong to oversee the overall situation and supervise all this. This was also done to avoid malicious competition, internal strife, and fratricide. After the clan meeting, Lin Sun went to the ancestral shrine in the back mountain of heart-cleansing peak alone. He stood in front of the memorial tablets of Lin family's ancestors for a long time. On the memorial tablets, there were the names of his great-grandfather Dao Chun, his parents, his grandfather, and all his relatives and friends. They were familiar and strange at the same time, because they had never met. But Lin Sun knew that he had already integrated in a Lin family. As a lineal descendant of Lin family, some things needed to be done by him, after all, such as avenging his parents and relatives. At dusk, the setting sun shone like a fire. Near the ancestral shrine in the back mountain, it was quiet and quiet. When Lin Sun left, he saw Lin Tianlong, Lin Yinshan, and Lin Feifeng who were grounded here. Lin Sun was very calm. He told them some things about the clan meeting and then left. Lin Tianlong and the others were stunned with complicated and sad expressions. They were sinners who had committed the felony of betraying the clan. Now, they were grounded in the back mountain and probably could not leave again for the rest of their lives. Originally, they were unwilling and resentful, but when they learned about Lin Sun's arrangement of heirs, they completely accepted their fate. They even felt gratified and happy in their hearts. They knew that at least in their own clans, there was likely to be a great man who could really take charge of Lin family in the future. This was hope, which made them willing to atone for their sins here. Even if they spent their whole life in repentance, at least there was hope. In the following days, Heart Cleansing Peak was busier and busier day by day. There was a scene of prosperity everywhere. Vulture had been practicing in seclusion to refine Devil Calamity powder and restore his cultivation. Lin Zhong, Young Ku, and Zhu Laosan also had their own things to do. They were too busy every day. The collateral forces of Lin family, the villagers of Feiyun village, and the servants and maids recruited on Heart Cleansing Peak were also very busy. Everyone had an unspeakable fighting spirit. Today's Lin family had solved the internal troubles and repelled the foreign enemies. It was really different from the past. At least in today's Forbidden City, in today's world, almost everyone knew Lin family of Heart Cleansing Peak. On the contrary, Lin Sun became very idle. In addition to practicing, he received some visits from distinguished guests who had to be received. During this period, Lin Sun also wrote letters to Keystone Business, Iron Blood King Ning family, Tumbler Gong clan, and ECE family respectively to express his gratitude. After all, when he faced Qin Sangja, the king of Life-Death Realm, Fortune God sure secretly escorted him. This great kindness could not be forgotten. As for Zhao Tai-Lai, he didn't appear again for a long time. It seemed that he had forgotten what happened in Star-Embracing Pillow in Moon House. Lin Sun was a little strange at first, but later he forgot about it. However, Shun Ta, the chief instructor of Spiritual Tattoo branch of Green Deer School, suddenly came to visit him one day. On the same day, Lin Sun and Shun Tuo left Heart Cleansing Peak together and went to Green Deer School in a chariot. It had been nearly half a month since Lin Sun returned to the Forbidden City from Soul Oblivion Sea. As an instructor of Spiritual Tattoo branch, Lin Sun didn't go to Spiritual Tattoo branch in time to continue teaching, which seemed to be a dereliction of duty. However, according to Shun Ta, this was a trivial matter and everyone could understand it. When the chariot passed through the central area of the Forbidden City, a fierce battle was being broadcasted on the huge spiritual light curtain. A young man in moon-white clothes, holding a black spear, was fighting with 6 practitioners of reincarnation developing realm above the void. The collision of the dazzling divine splendor caused terrible airflow fluctuations, which were gorgeous and dazzling. Countless pedestrians stood in front of the spirit transmission light screen, and all of them had their heads raised as they stared at the battle unblinkingly. All of them wore nervous expressions, and they were holding their breaths in rapt attention. Occasionally, they would even let out sharp cries of surprise. Lin Sun was stunned. Wasn't this the battle between him and Qin Xuandu and other 6 practitioners of reincarnation developing realm that day? This news began to be broadcasted half a month ago and has been repeated countless times. But every time, it still attracts countless people to watch. It's an unprecedented grand occasion. Shen Tuo explained to the side. His face was filled with emotion. Even he was unable to control his shock when he saw the true scene of the battle for the first time. In today's Forbidden City, if one hadn't heard of this battle, he didn't deserve to be a resident of the Forbidden City. This was the influence of this battle. Until now, the aftermath was still spreading. Imperceptibly, Lin Sun was remembered by more and more people. Child Lin was unparalleled in the world and was crowned all over the capital. How could such a compliment be as simple as it sounded? Now, as long as the sentence was mentioned, almost everyone would think of a name, Lin Sun. Even now, many practitioners in the Forbidden City were complaining that Lin Sun was in the limelight. No matter where they went, whether in pubs, tea houses, or on the streets, they could hear about this guy everywhere. Even the singers in the brothels had written all kinds of songs about Lin Sun and were competing to sing them, which made people not know whether to laugh or cry. Brother Shun, why did you ask me to go to Green Deer School this time? Lin Sun withdrew his gaze and finally couldn't help asking. Under Shun Tuo's strong request, he had changed the way he addressed Shun Tuo and began to call him brother. In Shun Tuo's view, Lin Sun's identity as a grandmaster of spiritual tattoos was enough for any spiritual tattooist to rely on. What's more, Lin Sun was a peerless talent in the capital. If Lin Sun called him senior again, Shun Tuo wouldn't be able to afford it. P.S. Thanks for the tip from Bookfriend 3052. In addition, I wish you all a happy new year. On the first day of the new year, looking back on 2016, I have a lot of feelings, but everything is over. I also wish you all a more interesting and lively new year than last year. Chapter 684. Actually, Shun Tuo hesitated for a moment and said, I have no choice but to ask you to return to the school this time. I want to ask you for a favor. Lin Sun raised his eyebrows. Is there anything that Green Deer School can't solve? Shun Tuo smiled bitterly. It's different this time. The situation is a little special. Then, Shun Tuo explained the whole story. It turned out that just yesterday, from the heavens' pivot holy land located in the ancient desolation territory, a big shot led some young disciples to the mortal world and came to Green Deer School. Their purpose this time was to select a promising young man from Green Deer School and take him to the heavens' pivot holy land for cultivation before the catastrophe of Tao broke out in the mortal world. This should have been a good thing, but it was embarrassing that some talented disciples of Green Deer School had already gone to the ancient desolation territory. For example, Gu Yunting, Song Yi, Bai Lingshi, Zhao Yin, and other outstanding disciples of the young generation were no longer in Green Deer School. Presently, there was no lack of outstanding talents amongst the students that remained in the academy. However, comparatively speaking, they were slightly lacking in maturity. Under such circumstances, the people from the heavens' pivot holy land were quite disappointed and looked down upon Green Deer School. Originally, this was not a big deal. But today, some students of Green Deer School had a conflict with the descendants of the heavens' pivot holy land. When he spoke up to hear, the space between Shun Tuo's brows carried a wisp of gloominess, and there was even a form of indescribable embarrassment and rage. Those fellows are too arrogant. They take the students of my academy to be ants, and their words are filled with arrogance and slander. Then, the students of our school were not convinced and had a conflict with them. Lin asked, Yes, it's a matter of honor and disgrace. Who can swallow this? Shun Tuo's face was gloomy. He was so old, but he was still so angry. It could be seen how arrogant those descendants of the heavens' pivot holy land were. Lin Sun roughly understood and tentatively asked, In this conflict, the students of our school. Shun Tuo's face became very embarrassed, and he nodded bitterly. Yes, they were all defeated. First, he was looked down upon and looked down upon. Then, he was defeated in a conflict by someone who looked down on him. This feeling was indeed too sullen and humiliating. All of a sudden, Lin Sun understood Shun Tuo's mood. He patted Shun Tuo on the shoulder and comforted him. Don't think too much. After all, they're the successors of the heavens' pivot holy land. Whether they admit it or not, they're really strong. He had seen the strength of the successors of the numinous treasure sacred land, Xiaoran, Su Xingfeng, and Gong Yangyu. Naturally, He knew that none of the successors of these ancient orthodoxies were simple characters. Compared to them, the students of Green Deer Academy were still somewhat inferior. It wasn't that Lin Sun looked down on them, but that he had experienced it himself. After a comparison in his mind, he roughly judged such a fact. However, after hearing Lin Sun's comforting words, Shun Tuo became more and more embarrassed. After a while, he said, "If the students of our school were defeated by the successors of the heavens' pivot holy land, it would be fine. But this time, it was just the retainers of those successors." Lin Sun was stunned and couldn't help sighing in his heart. Which student of Green Deer Academy wasn't an elite selected from such rigorous examinations as county test, state test, province test, and nation test? It could be said that those students represented the most talented and potential group of the younger generation of the empire, and were the pillars of the empire's future. But now, in the face of provocation and contempt, these students couldn't even defeat the retainers of the opponents. Instead, they were defeated in a mess. It was indeed too shameful and shameful. No wonder Shun Tuo, with his current identity, was so aggrieved and angry. As early as a few months ago, the top students of our Green Deer Academy, such as Gu Yunting, Zhao Jingwen, Zui Yujing, Huang Long Shun, and so on, had been sent to the ancient Desolation Territory. Shun Tuo was very depressed. If some of them were here, I believe this conflict would not have developed into such an unbearable situation. Lin Sun thought about it, and found what Shun Tuo said was true. As far as he knew, on the most mysterious spiritual sea list of Green Deer Academy, there were many amazing talents. At that time, Gu Yunting also stepped into this list. Unfortunately, all the disciples who were on the spiritual sea list had already been sent to the ancient Desolation Territory. Of course, in addition to the spiritual sea list, Green Deer Academy also had a Zhenwu courtyard, in which all the students had reached Tao Insight Realm. But in the same way, these students were no longer in the academy. At this time, in the face of the contempt and provocation of the descendants of the heavens' pivot holy land, the situation of Green Deer Academy was indeed a little embarrassing. No wonder Shun Tuo came to ask him for help. But, as an instructor, is it appropriate for me to help? Lin Sun asked. He was very willing to help. Both Shun Tuo and the dean of Green Deer Academy had given him a lot of help. Lin Sun had long regarded himself as a member of Green Deer Academy. Naturally, Lin Sun would not stand idly by when such a problem involved the honor of the academy. Alas, Shun Tuo sighed and said with a strange look, "You don't have to worry about this," because he couldn't go on. Because what? Lin Sun became more and more curious. Because they directly called you to fight with them. Shun Tuo held back for a long time before telling the truth. Lin Sun frowned, keenly aware that the tone of the opponents would not be so friendly. They must have said something unpleasant about him, but Shun Tuo was not in a position to say it. Ho, do they have the qualification to challenge me? Lin Sun smiled, showing his snow-white teeth. It was not that he was arrogant, but that he had killed the real descendants of the holy land of spirit treasure. How could he be afraid of the descendants of another orthodoxy? Hearing Lin Sun's words, Shun Tuo was a little anxious. "Brother, you are not willing to fight with them, are you?" Lin Sun was speechless, and his black eyes became deep. He said indifferently, "Of course I will help, but I am afraid that they are not able to fight with me. Let me tell you first, if someone is accidentally killed, don't blame it on me." Shun Tuo gasped and was in a daze for a while. He was excited and happy, but he could not help but worry because he knew how fierce the lad in front of him would be once he started to fight. This was a master who killed 6 practitioners in the reincarnation developing realm from 2 top aristocratic families just because of a disagreement. This kind of fierceness was made with real swords and spears, and it was not ambiguous at all. Suddenly, Shun Tuo was a little expectant. Chapter 685. Green Deer School, Zhenwu Courtyard, Martial Arts Practice Field. The atmosphere was deathly silent. The students and teachers who surrounded the martial arts practice field all had ugly expressions. Some were gnashing their teeth in anger. Some were disappointed and frustrated. Some were tightly pursing their lips, their faces livid and sullen. In the seats nearby, 7 or 8 students were injured and breathless. Some were bruised and swollen, some had broken bones, and some had directly fainted. On the other hand, a young man stood at the center of the spacious practice grounds. He had gray hair, a handsome bearing, and a fierce and ferocious aura. With his hands behind his back, his eyes swept across the audience indifferently. With a touch of disdain, he said in a frivolous tone, "You, who is still not convinced?" The field suddenly became restless. The male students were so angry that their eyes were wide open and their teeth were almost broken. The female students were also red in the face and clenched their fists. As for the instructors, all of their faces were ashen and they did not say a word. It had been a quarter of an hour since the beginning of the conflict. 8 students from Zhenwu Courtyard had come out to fight. Each of these students could be regarded as an elite, possessing the cultivation of the Tao Insight realm. When they graduated from the academy in the future, if they joined the army, they would definitely be directly promoted to a commander with real power. If they were in the local area, they would also become an overlord and deter others. But these 8 students, one by one, were defeated on the spot. From beginning to end, no one could withstand more than 100 moves. They were defeated in a complete mess. What made the teachers and students feel most humiliated and ashamed was that the opponent was just a personal servant of a successor of the heavens' pivot holy land. At this time, standing in the middle of the martial arts practice field was that servant. His name was Mu Qing, and he was born with amazing combat strength. A single servant seemed to be invincible as he displayed great might in the martial arts practice grounds and defeated the 8 students that received the attention of everyone in their academy. All of this was like a rod that struck fiercely on the heads of those instructors, teachers, and students, and it brought an unprecedented heavy blow to their pride. Needless to say, if today's events were to spread, it would have an immeasurable impact on the reputation of the entire Green Deer School and make the world laugh at them. Why is no one talking? At the center of the martial arts practice field, the disdain in Mu Qing's eyes intensified. In the face of such blatant provocation, some students couldn't help but want to rush out, but they were stopped by the instructors beside them. This wasn't the time to let their emotions affect their decisions. However, this made Mu Qing even more disdainful. He sneered, "Haha, previously when we said that the students of your Green Deer Academy were no good, you guys were unconvinced and thought that we were looking down on and humiliating you. Now that you've seen the truth, what else do you have to say?" This was the territory of Green Deer Academy, but now an outsider was standing here, flaunting his prowess and looking down on everything. This made the teachers and students extremely angry. Some students couldn't help but feel sorrowful. Could it be that the reputation of the academy that had been established for thousands of years is going to be destroyed in a day? Suddenly, a deep voice resounded, and a man in a gray robe stood out. It's Senior Wang Ying. Many students' eyes lit up. They recognized that the gray-robed man was an outstanding figure of the true martial courtyard. He had been in closed-door training. It was said that he wanted to break through the Tao Insight realm. But no one had expected that even Wang Ying would be alarmed. This caused hope to rise in the hearts of the students. Absolutely not. Different from the reaction of the students, the teachers present all paled, one after another trying to stop him. Some time ago, after Gu Yinting and the other peerless characters, Wang Ying could be regarded as one of the top experts in the Zhenwu courtyard. If he also lost, then in this conflict their Green Deer Academy would be completely defeated. They would never be able to raise their heads again, and their reputation would be ruined. The consequences would be too severe. Hence, he would rather not fight than lose. In this way, at least there would be a trace of hope and leeway. In the battle of martial arts, there is no such thing as compromise. Today I, Wang Ying, would rather be defeated than take a step back. Wang Ying's words were resolute, his expression firm, and as he spoke, he had already strode into the martial arts arena. This made the students present excited, one after another cheering for the spirit displayed by Wang Ying. The originally deathly silent atmosphere also became lively, but the teachers present all sighed inwardly. They understood the strength of Wang Ying. To defeat Mu Qing, the hope was not great. Ha! It seems that you are very popular, but in my opinion, at most you are just another person coming to die. Mu Qing's expression was frivolous, still disdainful. Less nonsense. Let's see who's the real deal. Wang Ying obviously also had a stomach full of anger. His figure flashed, and he charged forward, his figure like an angry dragon, his imposing manner astonishing. It has to be said that Wang Ying's battle strength was indeed very impressive. At least in the Tao Insight stage, he could be regarded as a first-class figure. But what made the hearts of the teachers and students cold was that after just over 100 moves, Wang Ying was also defeated. He was struck by Mu Qing's palm. If not for his arms helping him to block the attack, just this palm alone would have been enough to split open his stomach, and he would have died on the spot. Even so, his arms were crippled, his bones shattered, and his entire body was ruthlessly sent flying, landing on the ground dozens of feet away, blood staining the bluestone. The field was suddenly silent, so silent that it was terrifying. All the students widened their eyes, not daring to believe what they had seen, their expressions filled with despair and sadness. Even Wang Ying was defeated in the Green Deer Academy. Who else could fight with Mu Qing? And the instructors' faces were livid. The scene that they least wanted to see had finally happened. Today's matter was destined to be unable to be covered up, and it would soon spread out. At that time, the reputation of Green Deer Academy would be completely ruined. To be able to withstand more than 100 moves from me is not too bad. Unfortunately, there are too many people like you in the ancient desolation domain, and you're not even qualified to enter the heavens' pivot holy land. Mu Qing looked down on the field. His figure was majestic, and although he was a servant, he had an extremely swift and fierce aura. This made people wonder, if Mu Qing was already so powerful, how powerful would his master be? All the instructors' hearts were heavy, and their faces were gloomy. They were so angry that they had almost reached the point of despair and helplessness. At this time, in the deepest part of the martial arts field, there was a high platform. At this moment, at this time, a slight snort suddenly sounded from the high platform. The snort came from a young man sitting with his back to the crowd. He was dressed in a golden robe and had a head full of golden hair. Even though he was sitting, his back was straight and gave off a dazzling and sharp aura. Everyone knew that his name was Nangonghua, and he was the young master that Mu Qing had mentioned. He was a successor disciple from the heavens' pivot holy land. Hearing the snort, the originally arrogant and conceited Mu Qing's face immediately changed. He respectfully stepped forward and said, "Young master, did I perform a little unbearably just now? We are here as guests. It's not good to dirty the ground." Nangonghua did not even turn his head. His voice was low and deep, carrying a trace of unique magnetism. Mu Qing heaved a sigh of relief and immediately went forward. He picked up Wang Ying, who was lying in a pool of blood and groaning in pain, and threw him to the students in the distance. Then he said coldly, "Watch him. I don't want to dirty your territory anymore." With a wave of his sleeve, he cleaned up all the bloodstains on the ground. Only then did he bow towards Nangonghua's back and return to the center of the martial arts practice field. When the teachers and students present saw this scene, they were so angry that their eyes turned red. They actually dared to say that senior brother Wang Ying's blood dirty the ground. Was this a direct humiliation to all of them? On the high platform, Nangonghua seemed to be completely unaware of all of this, or rather, even if he sensed it, he did not want to pay attention to it. His back was still facing the crowd, and he was drinking and chatting with 4 or 5 young men and women beside him, as if he was ignoring everyone present. Those 4 or 5 men and women were also descendants of the heavenly pivot holy land. When they saw this scene, they only smiled and retracted their gazes. They did not care at all. They chatted and drank. Wasn't that kind of casual attitude another kind of arrogance and conceit? The atmosphere was very quiet, so quiet that it made it hard for people to breathe. "All right, is that Lin's son here?" In the middle of the martial arts practice field, Mu Qing had once again regained his frivolous and contemptuous attitude. His voice revealed a trace of dissatisfaction. Didn't they say that he killed 6 reincarnation stage cultivators by himself? How come he has become a coward now, and doesn't even have the courage to come forward to fight? The moment Mu Qing's words came out, it was as if a barrel of gunpowder had been ignited, causing the students who had long been suppressing their anger to be unable to control their emotions. Who do you think you are? How dare you slander Instructor Kobayashi? If Instructor Kobayashi were here, would you still be qualified to stand and speak? How dare you scold Instructor Kobayashi as a coward? Both men and women were angry. Today, Lin Sun had already become a legendary figure that they admired. He was talked about with relish by the world and admired by countless practitioners. How could he be slandered by others? Even some of the instructors could not help but speak out and accuse Mu Qing of going too far. There were signs that the situation was getting out of control. This made Mu Qing frown, and he suddenly shouted, "What a joke! If he has the guts, why hasn't he shown up until now? Do you think I have time to waste with you? Or do you Green Deer School only know how to make noise? I said, if anyone is dissatisfied, come out." His voice was like a clap of thunder, spreading all over the field and suppressing the accusations and uproars, which made all the teachers and students change their expressions. Of course, if you instructors find it unpleasant, you can also come out. I don't mind playing with you. Mu Qing's eyes were cold and full of disdain. This sentence was too arrogant. Originally, it was infuriating enough that he, a mere servant, dared to despise and humiliate them so unscrupulously. But now, he directly called for a fight with the instructors of Green Deer School. This arrogant attitude made the students so angry that their lungs were about to explode. Among the instructors of Green Deer School, there was no lack of reincarnation developing rel practitioners. They would not do such a disgraceful thing. However, being provoked by a mere servant of Mu Qing's pointed at their noses caused their expressions to turn extremely ugly. Haha, Mu Qing laughed. It seems that Green Deer School is really disappointing. There is no one worthy of my attention. Now I can't help but suspect that Lin Sun, who is known as the champion of the capital, is also a person who deceives the world to gain fame. He is not worth mentioning. Don't talk about our instructor Kobayashi like that. At this moment, an angry roar was heard. A little fat teenager rushed out and madly rushed toward Mu Qing as if he was desperate. It was little fatty Lu Hui, a student of Class C9. He was only a spiritual tattooist, and his strength was not at the same level as Mu Qing at all. But at this moment, when he heard Mu Qing repeatedly humiliate their instructor Kobayashi, he lost control. He was so angry that he was about to go crazy and fight with Mu Qing. The instructors turned pale with fright, and even the students were caught unprepared. When they wanted to stop him, it was too late. A cold light appeared in Mu Qing's eyes. Who was he? An ant-like little guy dare to stand out and fight with his life? He must be tired of living. He decided to be ruthless and give this kid an unforgettable lesson. Buzz. Mu Qing stood motionlessly, waiting for little fatty Lu Hui to come and court death, with a black luster circling around his fingertips. However, to his surprise, a figure suddenly appeared at the scene and stood in front of little fatty Lu Hui. Mu Qing frowned and looked up. It was a young man in moon-white clothes. He was tall and handsome, with deep black eyes and an extraordinary temperament. But soon, Mu Qing didn't take it seriously. He didn't notice anything special about this young man. Who the hell is stopping me? Let go. I'm going to fight with him. How can a dog like him humiliate Instructor Kobayashi? Little fatty Lu Hui roared, and his eyes were about to spit fire. He was so angry that he didn't notice who was in front of him at all. "You brat, don't you recognize me?" A familiar voice rang in his ears, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Little fatty Lu Hui was stunned. As if he had found his soul, he jerked his head up and saw a familiar, delicate face. He almost couldn't believe his eyes. He murmured, "My God, am I so angry that my eyes are blurred? Why do I look like I've seen a ghost, pa?" He was slapped on the back of his head. "You've done well today. If you dare to curse in front of me again, I won't spare you." At this moment, the instructors and students were also stunned. They were angry, hopeless, and helpless. Their emotions were all out of control. Therefore, when they saw the familiar figure standing in front of little fatty Lu Hui, they couldn't believe it and were stunned. Mu Qing didn't notice any of this. He only heard the ant-like little fatty call him a dog. "Kid, get out of here. No one can save this little bastard today." As he shouted, Mu Qing's figure flashed, and he slammed his palm towards Lu Hui's head. Surrounded by murderous intent, he had made a vicious move. Previously, he was undefeatable among his peers in Green Deer Academy. Even the instructors dared not speak up. How majestic and arrogant was he? But now, he was insulted by a little fatty who wasn't even at the Tao Insight realm. If he didn't kill him, how could he, Mu Qing, maintain his dignity? Boom! The void exploded and the terrifying palm wind was overflowing with dark light. It was extremely terrifying, causing all the teachers and students to wake up from their daze. Then, they saw a scene that they would never forget for the rest of their lives. At this critical moment, Lin Sun, who was standing in front of fatty Lu Hui, merely gave a casual slap. With a bang, Mu Qing was ruthlessly sent flying like a fly. Chapter 686. Bang! The sound of the slap was very dull, like a palm hitting a sandbag. Mu Qing was also sent flying like a sandbag. Fatty Lu Hui was dumbfounded. All the instructors present were also dumbfounded. Before, Mu Qing was extremely arrogant. Although he was just a servant, he defeated a group of students and masters of Green Deer School. His contemptuous words and arrogant manner made all the instructors present angry and aggrieved. Yet now, such an arrogant fellow was sent flying like a fly by a single slap. This was too shocking. Lin Sun patted fatty Lu Hui on the shoulder without raising his head. "Are you still standing there looking for a beating? Go back quickly." "Instructor Lin, it's really you." Lu Hui's face was flushed with excitement. "You're really annoying." Lin Sun smiled and casually threw Lu Hui out of the martial arts field. "It's really Instructor Lin." At this time, all the instructors present woke up from the state of shock and completely dared to believe that it was really Lin Sun. "Boy, you're dead." But at the same time, a roar rang out, and Mu Qing, who had been slapped out, rushed over. His whole body was overflowing with dark light. His face was livid, and his eyes were full of anger. It seemed that he still couldn't believe that he would be defeated by a single slap. Bang! His figure roared like thunder, and his power was extremely terrifying. His palms and fingers were surrounded by wisps of black Taoist aura, and he suddenly slapped at Lin Sun. Here, the void was shaking, and the turbulence was splashing. The scene was terrible. As a servant, Mu Qing could defeat all the students and masters of Green Deer School, which showed that he was indeed an extremely powerful and ruthless character. But, with a muffled bang, Mu Qing was hit out again and fell hard to the ground. He saw stars, twitched all over, and almost coughed up blood. But Lin Sun just stood there and didn't move an inch. He just slapped out casually. It was also his casual posture that made Mu Qing more and more unbearable, and the whole audience suddenly gasped. "Instructor Kobayashi, he's too strong." Some students were so shocked that they lost their voices. They had absolute confidence in Lin Sun, but at the same time, in their opinion, Mu Qing was not an ordinary character. They had thought that even Lin Sun would have to go through some trouble to defeat Mu Qing. Who would have thought that the arrogant Mu Qing was so pathetic in front of Lin Sun? The contrast was too great. What do you mean by too strong? Instructor Kobayashi has always been this strong. How can the title "Fill the Capital" be given out for no reason? Some female students argued. They were so excited that their eyes were shining and their cheeks were flushed. They looked at Lin Sun with crazy admiration. Even the teachers let out a long sigh of relief, their faces beaming with joy. The stronger Lin Sun's performance was, the more face they could save for Green Deer Academy. However, when they witnessed Lin's power with their own eyes, they couldn't help trembling. Sure enough, only such a person could kill 6 practitioners in reincarnation developing realm by himself. The silent atmosphere in the field became heated, and cheers rose one after another. The arrival of Lin Sun made all the teachers and students present excited. "You are Lin Sun?" Mu Qing got up from the ground. His face was ugly, with a touch of surprise and seriousness. Mu Qing was defeated by Lin Sun twice in a row. No matter how stupid he was, he realized that he had met a tough opponent this time. Lin Sun did not speak. His black eyes were calm. He stepped forward and said, "How dare you come to Green Deer Academy and behave atrociously?" An invisible power spread, causing Mu Qing's body to stiffen and almost suffocate. It was as if he saw a towering mountain pressing down on him. Behave atrociously. We're just sparring. The disciples of Green Deer Academy are very weak. Am I wrong? Mu Qing snorted coldly. He suppressed the fear in his heart and faced Lin Sun. He came from the ancient Desolation territory. Although he was the servant of Nangong Hua, the successor disciple of the Heaven's Pivot Holy Land, he was confident that no one in the lower world would dare to do anything to him. Is that so? Then let's spar too. Lin Sun stepped forward calmly. His expression was indifferent, but he had an imposing manner that could swallow mountains and rivers. Mu Qing was shocked and angry. He had just called out a word when he felt his vision blur. His neck was grabbed, and his whole body was lifted up. It was difficult for him to breathe, let alone speak. Too strong. Mu Qing was terrified. When he heard some rumors about Lin Sun, he did not believe them. He thought that they were deliberately exaggerating and spreading false information. But now, Mu Qing realized that he had guessed wrong. Unfortunately, he had no strength to struggle at this moment. He was lifted up by the neck like a chick, and then his body was ruthlessly thrown to the ground like a wooden stake. Bang! The muffled sound of bones breaking could be heard. Mu Qing's whole body was overflowing with blood. His whole body twitched violently, and he let out a shrill scream. This blow was simply too ruthless. It made all the teachers and students panic in pain. You dare to challenge me with just this bit of ability? Lin Sun sighed. He seemed to be a little disappointed or dissatisfied. Forget it. This is Green Deer Academy after all. If I kill you, the outside world will think that we are bullying others. Then I will destroy your cultivation as punishment. As he spoke, he lifted his foot. How dare you? Mu Qing was terrified and angry. He had completely collapsed. Who would have thought that Lin Sun would be so ruthless and actually want to destroy him? Stop. At this moment, Nangong Hua, who was sitting on a high platform and chatting, could no longer stand by and watch. Crack. However, Lin Sun did not care at all. With a stomp, a powerful force spread out from the tip of his foot and destroyed Mu Qing's inner cave in one fell swoop. Mu Qing's pupils dilated. He still could not believe it. His voice was trembling, frightened, angry, and desperate. His cultivation being destroyed was even worse than killing him. Even if he lived, he was destined to be a cripple from today onwards. A cripple was destined to have no value. Hiss! The teachers and students present also sucked in a breath of cold air. They were shocked by Lin Sun's methods. Although Mu Qing was a servant, he came from the ancient Desolation realm after all. He was a servant of Nangong Hua, a true disciple of the Heaven's Pivot Holy Land. Just like that, he was cleanly crippled by Lin Sun. The enmity between them was too great. On the high platform in the distance, the descendants of the Heaven's Pivot Holy Land, led by Nangong Hua, had already stood up and looked at Lin Sun, who was in the middle of the martial arts practice field. Previously, their backs were facing the crowd as they drank and chatted. Their demeanor was casual, but it was a manifestation of pride and conceit. They did not take the teachers and students present seriously at all. But now, when Lin Sun appeared and unceremoniously crippled Mu Qing's cultivation, it made it difficult for them to stand by and watch. Although Mu Qing was a servant, he had come with them after all. He was a servant of Nangong Hua. Mu Qing being crippled was no different from slapping their faces. You are Lin Sun? It seems like not only are you famous in the lower realms, your temper is also very big. Beside Nangong Hua, a handsome and arrogant young man wearing a crane cloak and a dragon belt around his waist spoke coldly. His name was Ranshun, and just like Nangong Hua, he was a true disciple of the Heaven's Pivot Holy Land. To be able to become a true disciple of the Heaven's Pivot Holy Land, all of them could be said to be peerless and outstanding geniuses. Not only Ran Shun, Nan Gonghua, the other young men and women beside him were all such people. Facing the questioning, Lin Sun seemed to be completely unaware of it. He kicked Mu Qing, who was on the ground, and sent him flying. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, he cleaned up the bloodstains on the ground. Only then did he say, "His blood dirted the ground of my Green Deer Academy." He looked at Ranshun and said, "What? Do you have any objections?" The teachers and students present were moved. They realized that Lin Sun was seeking justice for Wang Ying, who had just been defeated. Even when facing the descendant of the heavens, pivot holy land, his attitude was not polite at all. Ran Shin's face darkened. Just as he was about to speak, he was interrupted by Lin Sun. "If you have any objections, then hold it in. I'm not in the mood to discuss who's right and who's wrong with you." All of a sudden, Ran Shun was so angry that his face turned green. He was a descendant of the heavens, pivot holy land. Even in the ancient desolation realm, he was a famous figure among the younger generation. But now, in the lower realms, he was continuously being provoked. How could he not be angry? He really doesn't know what's good for him. Haha, interesting. In the lower realms, there's actually someone with such courage. It's really rare. Unfortunately, people like this usually die the fastest. I'll give you a chance. Apologize to us. As long as you can appease our anger, we'll let you go today. The other descendants of the heavens, pivot holy land, also spoke up one after another. Although their words were casual, they revealed a sense of superiority. However, Ranshun seemed to be a little dissatisfied and said, "Let him go? That's too easy on him. If I don't kill this kind of person, how will I have a foothold in the sect in the future?" When the teachers and students in the distance saw this, they were both angry and worried. No matter what, the heavens' pivot holy land was like a colossus that occupied the ninth heaven. Even the Green Deer Academy was unable to fight against it, nor did they dare to provoke it. And now, seeing Nangong Hua and the others pointing their spear at Lin Sun, their words revealed that they did not intend to let Lin Sun off easily. How could the teachers and students not be worried? However, Lin Sun acted as if nothing had happened. He stood there with his hands behind his back, as if he was thinking about something. He did not make a sound, but from the beginning to the end, he did not show any signs of backing down. It doesn't matter if Mu Qing is dead. After all, he is just a servant. However, I am still his master in name. If I don't help him get some justice, it would make me seem incompetent. At this moment, Nangong Hua spoke. He was dressed in a golden robe and had a head of golden hair. His entire body was dazzling like the sun as he stood there. However, at this moment, his expression was cold and indifferent, giving off a threatening and oppressive aura. "Now, I can give you a chance to atone for your sins. Surrender to me, become my servant, and serve me. This matter can be forgiven." Nangong's words were calm. His eyes were like golden beams of light as he stared at Lin Sun. This caused the faces of the teachers and students to turn ugly. Let Lin Sun be a servant? What was the difference between this and humiliation? He, senior brother Nangong, is still too soft-hearted. This time, he is too easy to talk to. "Brat, why aren't you bowing your head in gratitude? To be able to serve senior brother Nangong is a precious opportunity that others can only dream of